For years ago, I failed the college entrance examination and ended up in a men's vocational college full of boys. Opposite was a 985 beauty university full of goddesses. Every day I squatted at the school gate, watching the girls with long legs and short skirts on the opposite side being picked up by rich second generations in luxury cars. Those rich second generations also laughed at me. Chu Ling, a poor loser like you, just prepare to be single for the rest of your life. I was furious but powerless to refute. Until that day, fate gave me a huge reversal. The host resentment value was detected to be off the charts, and the super rich sign-in system was activated. Sign in for 4 consecutive years and unlock the rich life after 4 years. So when others stayed up late to study and work hard, I only needed to sign in every day. Villas, luxury cars, and top wealth. I quietly accumulated them, waiting for the day when I could turn things around. For years later, when I arrived at the class reunion driving a Bugatti Veyron worth $50 million, all those who had laughed at me changed their expressions, and the school beauty even took the initiative to hold my hand. Looking at their jealous eyes, I couldn't help but sigh. The feeling of counterattack is really great, and this is just the beginning of my life. Hi everyone, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If you like this story, please, and let me know in the comment section. I will update the next part. Jinling Business College for Men. Across the street is China's famous Jinling University. Freshmen are pouring into the school gate, especially many girls, with long legs and short skirts, which are very tempting. I sat on the curb, staring at the 985 university across the street where many beautiful girls gathered, but my heart was full of helplessness and resentment. Oh my God, are you trying to play tricks on me like this? It's okay that I failed the exam and ended up in a boys' vocational school, but there are so many beauties across the street. When I think of the rough life I have had in the past 18 years, I feel even more unwilling and even want to raise my middle finger to the sky. When I was a child, my parents' business failed, and our family fell from wealth to poverty. I could only vow to study hard and get into a good university to turn things around. But God seemed to like playing tricks on me. On the day of the college entrance examination, I caught a bad cold. I felt drowsy in the examination room, and my results were a mess. When seeing my report card, even my usually gentle and easygoing homeroom teacher couldn't help but swear. So, now I am sitting here, a student in a vocational school full of boys, and the beautiful girls across the street are out of my reach. My mentality was already exploded, and I was even prepared to be single for the rest of my life. But I didn't expect my fate would change suddenly. Just as I let out a long sigh, a golden light curtain appeared in front of me out of thin air, which stunned me. It is detected that the host's resentment value has reached its peak, and the sign-in system for the rich has been activated. The text on the screen was flashing, and there was a line of rules below. Daily sign-in triggers random rewards, which will be temporarily stored and unlocked after 4 years. Funds and assets are legally available, and the host can claim them with confidence. Check-in location, finance department, administrative building, check-in time limit. 10 minutes, please go immediately. My heart was pounding and I was stunned for a moment, but then I calmed down instantly. After all, such a good thing should not be missed. System? Sign-in? Cheats from heaven? I can actually catch up with this kind of script that only the male protagonist of a novel can have. I immediately jumped up from the curb, rushed to the administration building in 2 steps, and signed in as fast as possible. After signing in, my first reward popped up on the screen. USD will be rewarded for each breath, and the amount will be unlocked after 4 years. I was stunned for a moment when I heard the prompt. Then I reacted and immediately took out my phone to start calculating. 1 cent for each breath. 8 million breaths a year. That's not making 800,000 a year without doing anything. In an instant, I felt as if I saw the light of the future. My mood at this moment can be described in 2 words: explosive. In the following days, the system triggered the sign-in tasks one after another, and I became more and more accustomed to the life of running to various strange places to sign in every day. The next morning, I was woken up by the system prompt sound in my ear. Please complete the sign-in at the number 2 dormitory building. The sign-in time limit is 10 minutes. Hearing this reminder, I jumped out of bed and ran out while putting on my clothes. The dormitory manager at the door was stunned when he saw me like this. Young man, why are you so anxious? Is there a fire? I didn't have time to explain and went straight to the sign-in location, my mind full of anticipation for the sign-in reward. Sign in successfully. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the goddess rebate skill. You will get random rebates when spending on girls with a beauty score of 95 or above. Rebate or goddess rebate? System. Are you encouraging me to pursue girls with good looks? I stood in front of the dormitory building and smiled bitterly. This skill sounded a bit outrageous, but I was a little looking forward to it. On the third day, the system prompt sounded again, and this time the check-in location was actually the dormitory bathroom. I couldn't help but complain. System, can you be a little more hygienic? Can you sign in like this? After signing in, I was stunned by the system's prompt. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the 1 centimeter increase. The golden gun is invincible primary skill. I was about to break apart. No way? Do I still need the skill? System, you really understand. As the days went by, my sign-in rewards became more and more outrageous, and various skills and assets were added to my account. For years passed in a flash. My life seemed ordinary, but secretly, earth-shaking changes had accumulated. June 29th, 2021 is the day when the system rewards are unlocked. My life of luxury truly begins from this moment. All rewards have been issued. Assets of 48.23 million US dollars. Tianfeng Tanlong Bay No. 1 Villa, Bugatti Veyron, advanced skills. When the bank card payment notification sounded, I looked at the long string of numbers and was so excited that I almost jumped up. Ha ha ha, God, you made me fail the exam back then, but now I've finally made it back. Who could stop me? What happened next left me even more stunned. Not only did the system reward arrive in my account, but the car was also clearly arranged for me. I called up the light screen and saw the exact location of the Bugatti Veyron, the underground parking lot of Wanda Plaza in Jinling City. I was so excited to think that I could finally redeem the sign-in rewards I had saved for 4 years. Immediately, I called a Didi and drove straight to Wanda Plaza, eager to see the real appearance of my luxury car. When I arrived at the underground parking lot, I got off the elevator and saw the Bugatti Veyron parked in the corner from a distance. The car was so eye-catching. Its cool shape and low-key luxury made the ordinary vehicles around it pale in comparison. When I got closer, I was even more surprised by the license plate number. Jina 99999. This is the top license plate number in Jinling. I know very well the importance of this license plate number. Generally, only the richest people can get it. It is a symbol of status. System, you are really particular. This car and this license plate are a perfect match. Just as I was standing in front of the car, feeling deeply moved, a figure walked out of the elevator not far away. She was a girl wearing a black OL suit, with big chestnut waves casually draped over her hair, and she looked mature and charming. As she walked closer, her slightly curly hair swayed, and her figure became more and more flawless. She was holding a cup of coffee in her hand and seemed to have just come out of a nearby cafe. There was a sense of efficiency in her steps. However, halfway through the walk, her eyes were attracted by my Bugatti Veyron, and a look of amazement immediately appeared on her face. "This is actually a Bugatti Veyron," she exclaimed in a low voice and walked around the car, her eyes full of admiration and amazement. Finally, her eyes stopped on the license plate number, and a sincere envy was almost written on her face. Just as she was about to turn around and leave, perhaps because she was too engrossed, she didn't even notice me walking towards her. The next second, we bumped into each other, and the coffee in her hand spilled, some of it right onto my clothes. Sorry. She looked apologetic and quickly took out a tissue from her pocket and squatted down to help me wipe the coffee stains on my clothes. I looked down at her as she wiped it carefully. Her long eyelashes trembled slightly with the movement, making her look particularly cute. After wiping the clothes, she looked down and saw the coffee stains on my shoes. She squatted down and wiped them carefully. Her movements were gentle and careful, without any perfunctoriness at all, which left me stunned for a moment. I smiled and couldn't help but say, "Sister, you will definitely achieve great things in the future." She raised her head and looked at me with a puzzled look on her face. "Successful? Why do you say that?" I shrugged and smiled and said, "Because you are serious and responsible enough. This attitude will take you very far." A hint of surprise flashed across her face, and then she smiled. "Thank you for the compliment, but I'm sorry for staining your clothes." I watched EU finish polishing her shoes. Then she looked up, smiled at me, and said, "It's okay, you finally wiped it clean. I'm really sorry." Her politeness made me feel good about her. Usually such a beautiful girl is very arrogant, but she is willing to kneel down and polish shoes for others, which is rare. I smiled and said to her, "It's okay, I can handle the rest myself." Her eyes fell on the coffee stain on my sportswear, her brows slightly furrowed, and she said, "I'm afraid this can't be washed out. How about this? Let's add WeChat, and I'll compensate you for the clothes, okay?" I smiled faintly, waved my hand, and said, "Really, it's okay. It's okay." She seemed to still feel a little sorry, apologized again, and walked to the other side. I looked at her leaving back, and suddenly a screen popped up in my mind. Name, Baiyun. Height, 168 centimeters. Appearance, 97. Body, 3060. Favorability, 65. Wow, this girl is really magnificent. Thinking of this, I regretted not adding her WeChat. After all, girls with a beauty score of more than 95 points can trigger rebates when spending money. However, doing this with a stranger would inevitably scare the other person, so forget it. Then I walked to my car, Bugatti Veyron. The contrasting color stitching of the car body gleams gold powder under the lights, and the configuration of the W16 engine and the speed of 2.7 seconds to break 100 make this beast full of charm. Just looking at it, I can't help but sigh in my heart. This is the charm of top luxury cars. I pressed the car key, opened the door, and got in. The red and black leather interior was soft to the touch. The steering wheel was full of design, and the center console was so exquisite that it was breathtaking. The moment I started the engine, the roar of the beast echoed in the parking lot. I stepped on the accelerator lightly and felt the huge pushback, which made me fully understand the value of a top sports car. Not far from the car, I saw Baiyun sitting in her Maserati, seemingly in a daze. I drove to her car, stopped, rolled down the window, and looked at her with a surprised look on her face. "When you squatted down just now, the buttons on your chest broke. Go back and change your clothes." I reminded him, then closed the car window, stepped on the accelerator, and left. She was left sitting in the car in a mess. Looking at her in the rearview mirror, I couldn't help but smile. Sure enough, it was still a bit interesting. After leaving the parking lot, my car undoubtedly became the focus. Many people took photos with their mobile phones, and some shouted, "Look, Bugatti Veyron. I want to post it on Weibo to increase my followers." Ignoring those people, I headed straight to Ziyun Hotel. This five-star hotel has a unique exterior design, and its bullet-shaped shape is particularly dazzling under the lights at night, attracting countless people's attention. I glanced at the front door and saw that the parking lot was full of cars inside and outside. A beautiful manager was standing next to a Mercedes-Benz S-Class, explaining to the owner that the parking space was full. The car owner was obviously dissatisfied and asked gloomily, "Is this your service attitude? You want me to park my car on the side of the road? Can you guarantee the safety of my car?" The beautiful manager tried to be polite and patiently explained that the hotel would arrange security to guard the vehicle, but this obviously did not satisfy the Mercedes owner. His complaint was echoed by other car owners. At this moment, I drove over in my Bugatti Veyron, and the roar immediately attracted everyone's attention. Their expressions were almost full of shock. The beautiful manager walked up to me and told me that the parking lot was full, with a bit of trepidation in her tone. After all, how could the owner of such a top luxury car be willing to park it outside? I nodded and said with a smile, "Sure, it's okay to park on the roadside." The manager was stunned. She didn't expect me to be so straightforward. After taking the key, she quickly arranged for someone to protect my car. Thanks to my Bugatti Veyron, the parking problem today might have been a real headache for me. But now that the problem has been solved, I feel a little relieved. Walking into the hotel lobby, I immediately saw the purple fountain in the center. Purple decorations hung from the top, surrounding the fountain like a tornado, shining brightly and attracting attention. The entire lobby is ingeniously designed, and every detail is full of artistic sense. No wonder this hotel has always been doing a booming business. I couldn't help but sigh. In the other private room, my classmates had already arrived and were chatting with Lu Hao in a lively atmosphere. After all, he was the class monitor and the center of the topic. Lu Hao looked at the time and asked with a little dissatisfaction, "It's already this late. Who else hasn't arrived? Isn't it time to order food?" Everyone began to confirm with each other. Soon someone said, "Chu Shaing hasn't arrived yet, and Chu Ling and Zhang Chong haven't arrived either." Hearing this name, my deskmate Chu Shaing also felt a little excited. Before I could think about it, the door of the private room was pushed open and Chu Shaing came in. She was tall and slender, and the moon-white dress made her look like a fairy descending from heaven. Her makeup is delicate, her eyebrows are naturally soft, and her big, wet eyes remind people of the innocence and cuteness of a fawn. Every detail is so perfect that people can't take their eyes away. Not only were the boys stunned with astonishment, but even the girls couldn't help but stop talking and look at her with envy. It must be said that she is indeed the well-deserved school beauty. Chu Shaing coughed lightly and broke the silence with a smile. Sorry, I'm late. I guess you've been waiting for a long time? Her voice was gentle and immediately made people feel good about it. She casually glanced at the crowd and finally asked, Where's Chu Ling? He said he would come today. Why hasn't he arrived yet? Her tone stunned me slightly. After 4 years, she still remembered me? And she seemed to pay special attention to my updates. I didn't think much about it, walked towards the private room, and opened the door. As soon as I walked in, everyone in the room immediately focused on me. Although they hadn't seen me for many years, they recognized me at first sight. Chu Lang. Lu Hao spoke first with a faint smile on his face. You are here. We thought you were not going to come. His words were meaningful. I was delayed on the way. I smiled and replied calmly. Ignoring Lu Hao's probing, my eyes fell on Chu Shaing. Her smile was warm. She patted the seat next to her and waved at me. Chu Ling, come and sit down. It turned out that she had specially reserved a seat for me. Long time no see. You've become more beautiful. I walked over and said with a smile, and at the same time couldn't help but look at her dress and expression. At this time, the system screen popped up. Name, Chu Shaing. Appearance, 98. Height, 170 centimeters. Body C. Favorability, 80. I silently complained in my heart. Her figure has not grown, but her temperament is still as stunning as ever. She is indeed worthy of being my former deskmate. As soon as she sat down, she said in a half-joking tone, For 4 years, you haven't said a word. You never come to every class reunion. It's really not easy to finally see you this time. I smiled at her without saying much. Lu Hao on the other side seemed to have seized the opportunity, staring at my sportswear, and said, Chu Ling, did you go out without changing clothes? Why are there coffee stains on your clothes? The room suddenly became quiet. All the students looked at my chest. Many of them began to snicker, covering their mouths. There was a hint of sarcasm in the air. I didn't say anything, I just looked around. These people have been doing this for 4 years, and their mentality has not changed. They like to seek psychological balance by putting others down. I scratched my head and smiled embarrassedly. Long time no see. After that, I sat down next to Chu Shaing without any courtesy. She took out a wet wipe from her bag, glanced at the coffee stain on my chest, and said lightly, It looks like it was just spilled there not long ago. As soon as she finished speaking, she started to wipe it for me. She was very serious about it, and the clean wet tissue was slowly stained by the coffee. I looked at her, feeling a little embarrassed, but it was hard to refuse, so I could only let her continue. The boys sitting next to me all had red eyes and stared at me as if they were looking at something unpleasant, and they wanted to rush over and pull me away from the chair. What does this kid mean? He dares to let Chu Shaing wipe him? Doesn't he know who he is? I listened to the faint whispers beside me and couldn't help but smile in my heart. Chu Shaing didn't seem to notice the jealous looks. While wiping her hair, she asked me, Have you found a job recently? Not yet. I shook my head and said casually, What about you? You should have found it, right? I can't find one for now. I've been admitted to Jinling University as a graduate student. She looked up at me and said in a relaxed tone, It seems that our school is just across the street from yours. I have to go to the school to find a tutor soon. Her tone was very natural, but I was slightly moved. It turned out that she still remembered my school. The faces of the boys next to me became even uglier, and their eyes looked like they wanted to kill me. In this delicate atmosphere, the door of the box was suddenly pushed open, and a loud voice rang out. Captain, the hotel you found is too high-end. I looked up and saw that it was Zhang Chong. He walked in while yelling and said with a smile. When I came in, I was stunned by the sight of this hall. This meal must be expensive, right? By the way, did you see the luxury car at the door? Luxury car? Everyone in the box shook their heads in confusion, as if they hadn't noticed it at all. They didn't even notice the parking lot outside when they entered the room. Bugatti Veyron. Zhang Chong's eyes widened, looking at us as if we were idiots. How could you not notice it? It's parked right at the door. Jinling must be a heavyweight to have a car like this. Bugatti Veyron? The air in the box was silent for a moment. Everyone had an incredible expression on their face, as if they were doubting their ears. Soon, Zhang Chong took out his cell phone and handed the photos to everyone. He said proudly, Look, this car is so beautiful. The streamlined shape is simply unbeatable. The phone was passed around among the students, and the top luxury car in the photo attracted everyone's attention. Even the girls who didn't know much about cars sighed. What a beautiful car. The appearance alone makes my heart beat faster. It's simply a work of art. How much does this car cost? A girl couldn't help but ask. Lu Hao coughed lightly, as if he had seized the opportunity to show off himself, and said calmly, "For this car, the manufacturer quoted a price of more than 40 million, plus tax. It should be around 50 million. When the students heard the price, they all gasped and looked at the car in the photo, reluctant to take their eyes off it. Moreover, this car has a 16-cylinder engine, and it can accelerate from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in just over 2 seconds. There are probably not many cars of this kind in the whole of China, and most of them are concentrated in Shanghai and Tianjin." Lu Hao continued, his tone full of superiority. "It's so scary. Anyone who drives a car like this must be a big shot," a classmate exclaimed, his face full of envy. Just as everyone was talking about the luxury car, the door of the private room rang again. The beautiful hotel manager came in, looked around us politely, and cleared her throat. The lights in the private room were bright, highlighting the beautiful manager's curvy figure. She wore her black work clothes like a fashion item. Her smile was gentle and sweet, and the 2 dimples on her face made people unable to look away. I noticed that the guys in the room were all stunned. Apparently, they didn't expect the manager of Ziyun Hotel to be so pretty. Almost everyone was shocked by her beauty. Lu Hao coughed lightly and broke the silence. "Beautiful manager, what are you doing here?" He pretended to be serious, as if he wanted to take the opportunity to get to know this beauty. I ignored his reaction, but found that the beautiful manager's eyes fell directly on me. There seemed to be a glimmer in her eyes, and her footsteps were walking towards me. The boys' expressions suddenly became complicated, as if something unacceptable was happening. They stared at me, their faces full of jealousy and resentment. The beautiful manager stood next to me, bowed her head slightly, and said respectfully, "Sir, I'm here to inform you that there is a vacant parking space in the parking lot. You can move your car in." Hearing her say that, I was a little surprised and said with a chuckle, "Didn't I tell you? I could just ask an employee to help me park. Why bother coming here in person to notify them? It's too troublesome." An awkward smile appeared on her face, and she quickly explained, "Sir, I'm so sorry. None of our employees dare to drive such an expensive car." Hearing this, I sighed helplessly and took the car keys she handed over. At this time, the atmosphere in the private room had become a little subtle, and everyone's expressions seemed to be frozen. The beautiful manager was holding the key to a Bugatti car. The logo on the car was very familiar. I looked up and glanced around the room, and found that all my classmates were looking at me with shock in their eyes. Lu Hao, who was just boasting, was also stunned. His eyes were dull, and the corners of his mouth twitched slightly, as if he had suddenly lost the ability to speak. He probably never thought that this car was actually mine. Even Chu Shaing was surprised. Her eyes fell on me, full of disbelief. Her lips were slightly parted, as if she had something to say, but didn't know how to start. I smiled, stood up, and said to everyone, "Sorry, everyone. I'll go downstairs to move the car, and we'll be back soon." After that, I followed the beautiful manager out of the private room. After I walked out of the private room, I heard a dead silence behind me, as if time had stopped. I could imagine their complicated expressions at the moment, and maybe a little regret. When I came back, the atmosphere in the room had completely changed. The boys were obviously much more enthusiastic, and they came up to me one by one, trying to get close to me with smiles on their faces. "Brother Chu, is that car really yours? I really admire you. You have great taste. I don't think I can afford a car like this in my lifetime. Brother Chu, if you find any way to get rich, don't forget your brother. We are classmates. If something good happens, take me with you." Even Lu Hao stood up, smiling, and said, "Chu Ling, you have to sit in the main seat. You are the most prestigious among our classmates." Listening to their flattery, I felt a surge of emotion. It is true that poor people in the city have no one to care about them, but rich people in the mountains have distant relatives. I didn't respond to Lu Hao's words, but returned to my original seat and sat next to Chu Shaing. She stared at me, as if she was trying to digest all this, with a silly expression on her face. "What's wrong? I just went out for a while. Don't you recognize me?" I couldn't help but smile and joked. Looking at her round eyes, I thought she was actually a little cute. Chu Shaobing came back to her senses and asked in a low voice, "But Chu Ling, you weren't." She hesitated to speak, obviously not yet fully accepting this huge contrast. "So, what do you think I've been doing in the past 4 years?" I replied with a chuckle. which seemed to make her think more. At the following dinner, my classmates almost surrounded me, and each of them tried every means to find an opportunity to talk to me, and even clinked glasses with me. Even if I only drank tea, they insisted on toasting with me. After dinner, the girls asked me to take their car one after another. I smiled and refused them all with excuses that it was not on my way. I only looked at Chu Shaing and asked, "How are you going back?" "Take a taxi." She answered naturally, but there seemed to be some expectation on her face. I nodded. "Let's go. I'll take you there." "Didn't you say it's not on the way?" She glared at me and asked with a smile. I pretended to be casual and said, "Forget it then." She immediately got anxious and said, "No, no, no, I'm wrong. Don't be ridiculous." Later, I drove her back home. She sat in the passenger seat, touching the interior of the car, her eyes full of curiosity, like a child. The luxurious interior in front of her made Chu Xiaobing's eyes flash with surprise. She whispered, "It is indeed the world's top luxury car, so beautiful." The purple and black stitching interior looks noble and elegant, and with the combination of top-grade materials, the texture of the whole car is impeccable. This is the charm of Bugatti Veyron. To be honest, I never thought that I would be able to ride in a Bugatti Veyron in this life. There was a hint of emotion in her tone, and her eyes unconsciously looked around the car. As I started the car, I said with a smile, "Really? You're about to go to graduate school, but you still don't have confidence in yourself?" This made me feel that she was a little too modest. She shook her head and explained with a smile, "It's not that I don't have confidence, I just don't dare to think about it. Even many bosses don't dare to dream of this kind of car. How can I be qualified?" As we were chatting, she suddenly took out a small gift box from her bag and handed it to me. "Here, I prepared this, but I didn't feel comfortable taking it out because there were so many people around." I was a little surprised. I took the gift box and said, "Wait a minute. I haven't prepared any return gift. How about this? I'll go buy you a cup of milk tea." I said this tentatively, thinking of using this opportunity to try out the goddess random rebate skill. Unexpectedly, she immediately waved her hand and refused. "Goodbye. I don't want to be called a gold digger," Chu Shaobing said with a smile. "Besides, I've already earned the gas money for you to send me home." Hearing her say that, I could only nod and respond with a smile. "Okay, let's go." I started the car and slowly drove out of the parking lot. When the car drove out of the hotel, I saw a group of classmates standing outside, watching my Bugatti go away. Their eyes were full of envy and jealousy. Especially the boys, their faces were all red, probably thinking, "I am afraid that we are giving away hundreds of millions of children." I almost couldn't help laughing out loud. When we drove across the Yangtze River Bridge, the cool breeze at night was very comfortable. I glanced at the passenger seat and saw Chu Shaobing squinting slightly, with a look of satisfaction on his face. The wind messed up her hair a little, and her profile looked particularly gentle in the night. At that moment, I was a little dazed like the cool heroine in a movie. Her hair brushed my cheek and neck carelessly, and the itchy feeling made me turn my head to look at her. When I looked at her, she actually noticed me. "What are you looking at?" she asked coquettishly, with a red face. I smiled and said without disguising, "Look at the beauty. Isn't that okay?" She rolled her eyes at me and pretended to be angry. "In the past 4 years, not only have you become richer, but you've also become more slick. Tell me, how many girlfriends did you have to learn these things?" When I heard the word girlfriend, my face changed instantly, and I just wanted to shout in my heart, "Chu Shaobing, aren't you rubbing salt into my heart?" For years, my crappy school was like a Buddhist temple. I didn't even have the chance to meet a member of the opposite sex, let alone a girlfriend. I cried in my heart. She seemed to see my depression and laughed so hard. "Oh, look at your expression. Have you really not had a boyfriend in 4 years? How funny." I shook my head and sighed helplessly. "You're really hitting the nail on the head." Along the way, we talked and laughed. Time passed quickly, and before we knew it, we arrived at the gate of her residential area. This is indeed a famous high-end residential area in Jinling. As soon as she parked the car, Chu Shaobing suddenly said, "Wait a moment, I'm going to buy something and we'll be back soon." After that, she went to the small supermarket next door. A few minutes later, she came back with 2 bottles of juice in her hands. She handed me one of them and said, "This was your favorite juice in high school. Do you still drink it now?" I took the juice and my heart was warmed. "Thank you. You still remember that I like to drink this? After so many years, I didn't expect you still remember it." She smiled and said softly, "I remember it. I bought it because I saw your car was empty, without even a bottle of water." Seeing her thoughtfulness, I was touched and opened the juice to drink. Just as we were talking, I noticed two figures in the distance staring at us. There were two people wearing sportswear, and they looked like they were jogging at night. Soon, they approached us, and I saw the woman in the group suddenly stop. Old Chu, look, this Bugatti is parked downstairs from us. Whose kid is so promising? The woman pointed in our direction excitedly, her voice full of envy. The man also nodded and whispered, "Why don't we get closer and take a look? There's no rush to run anyway." As he spoke, the two of them walked over. Chu Shaing obviously didn't notice my parents. I was about to leave when she suddenly said to me, "Thank you for sending me back." I smiled and said, "You're welcome. See you later." As the car drove out, I saw her standing there drinking juice in the rearview mirror. Just then, a familiar voice came from behind her. "Everyone has gone far away. Why are you still watching?" Chu Shaing was also shocked when she saw her parents. Her cheeks turned red instantly, and she complained in a low voice, "Mom and Dad, what are you looking at?" There was a hint of shyness in her tone. Chu's father and mother turned around and saw their daughter's appearance. They looked at each other and decided to give up the night run and go home to talk as if they had telepathy. After going upstairs, Chu's mother hugged Chu Shaobing and asked tentatively, "That luxury car just now, is it really that kid Chu Ling's? I remember he was your high school classmate." "Yes, it's him," Chu Shaobing admitted openly, and then told them the information he heard at the class reunion. His car costs 50 or 60 million. 50 or 60 million. Chu's father and mother were stunned by this number. Spending so much money on a car means that Chu Ling's current net worth is no longer comparable to what it was before. As soon as they got home, Chu's mother took Chu Shaobing to sit down and smiled like an auntie. "Shaobing, Mom just wanted to talk about you and Chu Ling and care about your ideological dynamics." "Mom," I couldn't help but interrupt her and said with a headache, "It's just a friend who sent me home. Don't think too much. Besides, I'm not a gold digger." Chu's mother disagreed and said earnestly, "Such a good boy, who knows you well. You must seize the opportunity. It would be a pity to miss him." Hearing this, Chu Shaobing looked hopeless and immediately stood up and went back to her room, not wanting to continue the topic, leaving her parents alone in the living room to discuss it in a low voice. At this time, I had already driven out of the community and onto the main road. There were few cars at night, but when other car owners saw the Bugatti Veyron, they all tacitly stepped on the brakes to give way. I can't afford to damage a luxury car like this, so I'd better not cause trouble. I noticed the movements of several cars in the rearview mirror and couldn't help but smile, continuing to feel the powerful performance of Bugatti. I stepped on the accelerator and was overwhelmed by the power. The engine of this car is so powerful that it feels very smooth even at low speeds. When passing the Yangtze River Bridge, I stuck my hand out of the car window, feeling the wind blowing through my palms, and couldn't help but whispering to myself, imitating the lines in the movie. 20 miles per hour is A, 40 miles per hour is B, 60 miles per hour is C. I murmured with a smile. It's a pity that this is an urban area. I can't drive more than 100 miles per hour, and I can't experience what D feels like. After feeling the journey, it was getting late. I stepped on the accelerator, accelerated, and drove towards the Tianfeng Tamlongwan Villa District where I signed in today, hoping to handle everything before the handover and check-in. The independent road in the villa area soon came into view. The wide and clean road surface looked as if workers had been smoothing it every day. It was amazingly smooth. The Bugatti Veyron is driving on the road, and the body has stronger grip, and the speed can be further increased. I accelerate slightly, and it feels like the whole car is running on the road. The lights on the roadside emit a warm orange glow, and the dragon carvings on the lampposts are delicate and exquisite, as if they are about to take off. The luxury of this road is completely beyond imagination. Soon, I arrived at the gate of Tianfeng Tanlong Bay. 4 huge columns held up a gold-plated plaque, and the security guards at the gate were all tall and straight, obviously retired soldiers who had received special training. As I was about to drive in, I noticed a woman in a black dress walking out from the shadows. When she saw my car, she was obviously shocked and walked towards me quickly. She knocked on the car window. I stopped the car and rolled down the window. She smiled professionally and asked softly, "Excuse me, are you Mr. Chu?" I looked the property manager up and down. She was young, about 22 or 23 years old, with a pure look and a good figure. She stood next to my car and smiled professionally. "Yes, it's me." I stated my identity directly. There was no trace of surprise in her eyes, as if she had already expected that the person who could drive such a car must be the owner of the villa. "Hello, Mr. Chu." I am the property manager of Tianfeng, Tianlong Bay. I received a call from you about coming over, so I waited for you here. I will take you to Villa number 1 for the handover now. I nodded and motioned for her to get in the car. Okay, come on, let's go in together. The property manager carefully opened the car door and sat down, appearing very cautious. The security guard saluted immediately when he saw her accompanying him and let the car pass. Along the way, the property manager looked at the luxurious decoration inside the car and chatted with me carefully. I will help you enter your vehicle information into the system tomorrow. When you come back, you can enter the community by simply scanning the license plate. She said very professionally. I nodded and simply replied, "Thank you for your help." She didn't seem to expect me to thank her and quickly waved her hand and said with a smile, "This is my job." Then she whispered with emotion, "But I didn't expect you to be so young and handsome. What a surprise." "Oh," I joked with a smile. "You mean you think the owner of Villa number 1 should be an old man?" She waved her hands quickly, looking a little embarrassed, but she didn't dare to deny it. The property manager was right. Villa number 1 was the best villa in the entire villa area. It was top-notch in terms of both area and configuration, and its price was ridiculously high. There were indeed very few people who could afford it. Listening to her introduction, I drove to the center of the villa area. The villas here are very far apart, the privacy is very good, and the surrounding landscape is also very beautiful. The property manager seemed to be dutifully promoting the property. The area of our villa area is absolutely the largest in Jinling. Even in the whole of China, it is definitely a top-notch design. You can rest assured living here. As she spoke, she wiped her sweat with a tissue. I asked in confusion, "It's quite cool at night. Why are you sweating? Are you feeling unwell?" She was stunned for a moment, then smiled and said, "It's a bit hot to be in a luxury car. I really felt it today." I couldn't help laughing after hearing this, thinking that this manager was quite humorous. After driving for more than 10 minutes, we finally arrived at a villa. She pointed to, "Mr. Chu, that's Villa number 1. I looked in the direction she pointed. Even at night, the lights of the villa and the surrounding landscape were still bright and dazzling. Small fountains surrounded it, and the courtyard was as exquisite as a private garden. I raised my eyebrows, and in my heart I sighed at the luxury of this place, which even looked a bit like a dream castle in a fairy tale. The property manager opened the gate of the villa with a remote control, and I slowly drove in. As she accompanied me in, she introduced, "The gate of the villa uses the latest electronic technology. The vehicle information is linked to the iris recognition system, and it can only be opened after double authentication. The villa is clean and tidy, and the flowers and plants are beautifully trimmed." She added, "Our housekeeper will arrange people to take care of the flowers and plants regularly, so you don't have to worry about maintenance." I took a quick look around the surroundings and was very satisfied with the layout. I nodded and said, "Okay, let's go in and see what the house looks like." The property manager used the password to open the door of the villa. As the mechanical sound rang out, the lights at the door lit up and a melodious piano piece sounded in the living room. As soon as I entered the door, I saw the huge crystal chandelier in the center. The light shone on the crystal, reflecting dazzling light, making the whole living room look exceptionally bright and luxurious. The property manager introduced as we walked. The whole villa is equipped with a full set of smart home systems. The lighting adopts human body sensing design, which is both energy-saving and practical. If you need to adjust the linkage function, you can contact the engineer at any time. I nodded, secretly amazed. The intelligence level of this villa completely exceeded my expectations. Every facility made people feel the integration of technology and luxury. She continued to show me around. There is a private cinema and gym on the basement floor. There is a heated swimming pool, both indoors and outdoors. There is also a self-purifying water circulation system installed, which is very convenient. As I listened to these introductions, I became more and more satisfied. I asked casually, "That's all for this introduction. I can explore the rest on my own. Would you like to sit down and have a cup of tea?" She quickly shook her head and smiled. "No, my work is done. If you have any questions, you can always call me." After that, she left. I took a casual shower and just turned on the shower when a screen suddenly appeared in front of me. "Host, please sign in." I was moved and immediately said sign in silently. Sign in successfully. Congratulations to the host for winning the latest global limited edition suits from Gucci, Armani, and Versace. I was stunned, looked down at the sportswear I was wearing, and immediately understood. After taking a shower, I walked into the cloakroom and found it was full of brand new high-end clothes. I casually took out a pair of underwear and compared them, and was immediately speechless. Can this hold up? I just put on some clothes and lay down on the bed. It was indeed a top-notch mattress. The moment I lay down, it felt like I was lying on a cloud. It was so comfortable that I didn't even want to move. The support of the mattress is just right. It won't make your body sink in, but it makes you feel very relaxed. I casually put my hands under my head and think about what happened today. Today, I met two girls with a rating of more than 95 points, but unfortunately, I still couldn't spend a penny. Otherwise, I would have tried the goddess random rebate skill a long time ago. Alas, it's not that easy to meet a girl with a score of more than 95. I sighed, feeling a little depressed. Really, the opportunity is right in front of me, but I can't grab it. Suddenly, I remembered the gift Chu Shaing gave me, so I took it and opened it to take a look. Inside was a tiger head badge with a cool design, which showed that she had put a lot of thought into choosing the gift. It's quite appropriate to give a tiger head to someone who was born in the year of the tiger. I casually placed the badge on the bedside, thinking that I would have to find an opportunity to return the gift some other day, so it could be considered as reciprocity. However, the goddess rebate thing still bothered me. After thinking about it, I took out my phone and thought to myself, since it's not possible in reality, there should be a live broadcast platform, right? I opened Feiyu Live, and the page was full of recommendations from anchors. I clicked into a live broadcast room that looked like a lowly, thinking that this girl should have a high rating. The girl had big eyes, like a cute character in a second-dimensional game. I casually checked the system score, 75. This score stunned me, and I subconsciously rubbed my eyes. Later, I realized that the beauty function of the live broadcast platform is too powerful, and coupled with the professional equipment used by some anchors, the appearance is often far from the reality. It's really scary, I said to myself, and exited the live broadcast room. I clicked on a new live broadcast room and heard a sweet voice coming from it. Brother, do you like me? Moi. The voice was so sweet that it gave me goosebumps, but I held back from complaining and was looking forward to seeing the good-looking host. However, when the picture finally loaded, a big face like an auntie appeared on the screen, as round as a sunflower, which shocked me. Fuck. I was stunned for a few seconds and couldn't help complaining. Isn't this anchor industry too picky? With this score, it's probably good enough to pass. I was so angry that I closed several live broadcast rooms and found that most of the anchors' appearance scores were between 70 and 80 points, which was barely passing, but far from the 95-point standard of goddess. Just as I was about to close the live streaming app and go to sleep, a notification popped up on the app. Thinking of trying again, I clicked on a live streaming room with a cartoon avatar. In the picture, a girl is playing King of Glory, and the player is Shangwan Wanner. She lowers her head and concentrates on showing off her skills in the game, so her appearance cannot be seen clearly for the time being. The public screen in the live broadcast room was scrolling rapidly, and fans were cheering for her. Don't be scared, Xiao Wanner. Beat them up and show off to the whole audience. Wanner, get a pinnacle. Don't be impatient. I'll show you what real operation is. The girl said with a smile. Her voice was clear and a little magnetic, which made people feel comfortable for some reason. As soon as she finished speaking, in the game screen, the character Shangwan Wanner, whom she controlled, took off directly, and with a series of smooth operations, she instantly got a pentakill. Pentakill. The crisp system prompt sounded, and I stared at the screen, even a little dazed. Her operation was too amazing. The comments immediately exploded. Wanner, this move is amazing. Are you Shangwan Wanna? No, you are Shangwan Xiu. Master, help me get higher scores. Looking at the game screen she was operating and the rapidly scrolling bullet comments, I thought to myself, this girl's score should be over 95 points, right? I couldn't help but start looking forward to it. Wanner just showed off some amazing skills and got a pentakill. I couldn't help but be dazzled. This girl's skills are quite impressive. I feel like not everyone can do it, but I didn't forget the main thing and muttered to myself, let me take a look at the ratings first. If the appearance is not up to standard, it will be useless no matter how great it is. Then I called up the system screen. A light screen popped up, and Wanner's information was displayed on it. Name, Lin Wanner, age, 21, height, 168 centimeters, appearance, 97, figure, 32C. As soon as I saw it, I was immediately excited. I finally found a pretty girl who met my requirements. Now I finally had a chance to try it out. At this time, Wanner had already won the entire game. The public screen was filled with 666, and fans cheered for her wonderful performance. Warner smiled sweetly at the camera and said softly, "Thank you for your support. That's all for today. It's getting late now, so everyone should go to bed early." Her face finally appeared on the screen. She had a small oval face and watery eyes with a smile. She looked like she was looking at you from a distance. What's going on? The anchor is so beautiful. Her facial features are so delicate and flawless. Her face is full of collagen, and her appearance is simply perfect. The public screen immediately exploded again, with fans posting all kinds of comments. "Ah, the anchor is so beautiful. Don't go off the air. Stay with us and chat for a while longer." Some people even shouted, "How can you bear to let others see such a beautiful girl? If you do it again, I will give you rockets." When Warner heard the word rocket, she lay down on the table and muttered helplessly, "You are just freeloaders. Last time you said you would give me rockets, but I couldn't even afford Lao Gan Ma." The fans in the live broadcast room burst into laughter and joked, "Host, stop pretending. Lao Gan Ma is a must-have for the rich. We can't even afford to eat, okay?" I laughed and shook my head at the comments. I didn't expect this anchor to be so good at making fun of herself. But I could also see that she really wanted to have fun in spite of the hardship. Just as Warner was about to end the broadcast, a system prompt popped up. User Ling Yun entered the live broadcast room. That was my ID, and I came in. Warner looked up at the camera and smiled sweetly. "Welcome, Mr. Ling Yun, to my live broadcast room." This sentence made the fans jealous. "Master Ling Yun, Warner has come to welcome you personally, so it's not too much to send a rocket. We have to send rockets as soon as we enter the room. That's the rule of our live broadcast room." I simply ignored these comments and raised my hand to type a question. How old is the anchor? When did she start live streaming? I wanted to know more about her situation. Warner blinked and replied, "I'm 21 years old this year. I've already reached adulthood. There's no problem with me doing live streaming." I smiled and replied, "I didn't say my age." After I sent that comment, the public screen in the live broadcast room exploded instantly. "Fuck, the old driver is here. This car is so stable, I almost sprained my waist. I want to get off. This is not a school bus to the kindergarten. Let me off." I smiled when I saw these comments. I didn't expect that a random sentence could cause such a commotion. Warner in front of the screen obviously understood what was said. After she was stunned for a moment, her face instantly turned red. She said to the camera coquettishly, "You old drivers. That's enough. If you continue like this, I will ban you from speaking." How old am I? Didn't I tell you before? It's just 36 plus D. Don't ask me anymore, she said, pretending to be angry. I was stunned. 36? Are you kidding? I just saw 32C written on the screen. Could it be that I used the golden eyes to see through it. Sure enough, at first glance, wow, it was really padded. The corners of my mouth twitched. This anchor is quite good at packaging himself. Just as I was thinking, the system screen popped up to complain about me. "Host, is this how you use the golden pupil?" I was immediately embarrassed and whispered, This is really not good." The screen flashed again. Look down. I couldn't help but curse in my heart. System, do I need to dig deeper into this matter? There's something wrong with you too. So I typed a comment to tease her. "The anchor is so young and is already live streaming. Haven't you gone to school? At your age, you look like you should still be in school, right?" As soon as these words came out, Warner's expression immediately became lonely, and she sighed softly. "Alas, my family is poor, and I have no money to go to school, so I can only come out to live broadcast. Actually, I don't expect to make much money. I just want to bring some fun to everyone. Money and such don't really matter," she said, pretending to wipe the corners of her eyes. I was stunned and felt a little sad, thinking that this girl was quite pitiful. But the next second, several comments directly exposed her. "Liar. The anchor is a big liar. A few days ago, we saw you swipe your campus card to enter Jinling Art College. Yes, yes, yes. He is a top student from a 211 university, and he is still crying poor. Ha. I am speechless. It would be a waste if he didn't become an actor with such acting skills." Seeing these comments, I rubbed my forehead speechlessly. This girl's acting skills are really good. She can even pretend to be innocent. Warner was exposed, with an embarrassed blush on her face. But she quickly adjusted herself and shouted to the camera with a smile, "Everyone, there are honest people here. Come and bully them." Then, she turned to me and said, "Hey, Mr. Ling Yun, I was just joking. You are also in Jinling, right? Do you want me to introduce you to the beauties in our art college? I'll tell you a secret. The girls in our college are all super beautiful. She blinked with a hint of playfulness in her tone. When I saw her like this, I found it funny in my heart. This little anchor is really like the old nanny, nagging and shrewd. At this moment, I sent 2 planes directly to her live broadcast room. Special effects exploded on the screen, and everyone was shocked. Oh my god, is this a plane? Master Lingyun is so generous. 2 planes. They are simply fighter jets among the rich. Warner, call me brother. Such a big man must be served well. Warner was stunned when she saw the special effects on the screen. Then she clapped her hands happily. Master Lingyun, you are so generous. We have a place to pay for the meal. And I have received a system prompt. Trigger the goddess rebate skill. Triple the rebate 600 US dollars. Ha, not bad, a sure win. Warner was still thanking me, and I casually sent a comment. Actually, I was planning to get a super hot one, but you said you wanted a plane, so I'll fulfill your wish. By the way, I'd like to remind you that you said you were 36D and not lacking in nutrition, so I won't use this money to supplement your nutrition. I added jokingly. Wana looked at the comments and was stunned. I'm 32C. Brother, I'm lacking nutrition. She couldn't help but mutter, and the whole live broadcast room suddenly burst into laughter. The anchor has been exposed. Ha ha ha. You still say that others are small-minded. You don't even dare to ask for super popularity when you want a plane. You are not big enough either. Master Lingyun really knows how to play. His mouth is amazing. I looked at the comments on the screen and casually sent another message. Okay, now you can send me your WeChat. As soon as this sentence came out, the barrage of comments suddenly quieted down and then exploded wildly again. Host, don't be depraved. Don't give it to me. Oh my god, isn't this too straightforward? Brother Lingyun is so straightforward that he just asked for WeChat. Wana was stunned for a moment, then smiled. Hey, Mr. Lingyun, why didn't you tell me earlier? My WeChat account is free. Just add me directly. I was speechless. This girl really knew how to turn the tables. A few minutes later, we added each other on WeChat. After adding WeChat, Warner took the initiative to send a message. Hello, Lingyun. I am Lin Warner. I replied, my name is Chu Ling. Just call me Brother Ling. Let's play a game. You do what I say, and I'll give you gifts. How about that? Warner, Brother Ling, what do you want to do? I can tell you that although I eat pickles, I have dignity. I will never agree to anything you ask for. The corner of my mouth twitched. One condition and one super hot. Warner, Brother Ling, I want to see the super hot special effects. Wow, he was so strong just now, but this change is faster than turning the pages of a book. Warner then sent a message. I can agree to your conditions, but your conditions can only be described in one word. I replied with a single word, oh. A few minutes later, Warner suddenly sent another message. Brother Ling, what are your conditions? You can't think of any? I was too lazy to explain more and just replied to her. I already said it, it's just oh. Oh. She was obviously stunned for a moment, and then I could see her blushing through the screen. Vania cursed softly. Absolutely LSP. But she still happily accepted my conditions. Then, I sent a super rocket directly over, and dazzling special effects immediately appeared in the live broadcast room. The system also pops up a prompt. Spend 2,000 US dollars to trigger the goddess rebate skill, get double the rebate, and be rewarded with 4,000 US dollars. I was happy, it felt really good, so I continued to brush. $2,000 to trigger the rebate, and the reward is $6,000. Spend $2,000 to trigger the rebate, and the reward is $20,000. 50 super rockets were fired in one breath, and the entire live broadcast room exploded. Fuck, what kind of rich guy is this? $100,000? It's gone in just a short time. I'm jealous. Lingyun really doesn't lack money. Wana was completely stunned. Looking at the special effects on the screen, her voice trembled a little. Thank you, Brother Ling. You are so generous. I am really touched. I posted a comment. Forget it, I won't brush it anymore. I'm tired of it. Tired of watching? I said, and the comments in the live broadcast room exploded again. The craziest sentence this year was born. Looking at the 300,000 yuan rebate, I smiled with satisfaction and sent a voice message to Warner. Okay, beautiful lady, let's have dinner together tomorrow. It won't be difficult for you, right? When Warner heard my voice, she was obviously stunned for a moment and replied hesitantly. Ah, okay, Brother Ling. She still couldn't hide the hesitation in her voice. However, she probably had no reason to refuse. On the other hand, I planned to take advantage of the date to claim the limited edition watch from the system reward and experience the luxury service. The next morning, I changed into Armani's limited edition suit and drove the Bugatti to Jinling Academy of Arts. Juana was obviously earlier than me. She dressed up carefully, wearing a beige dress, and was waiting at the school gate. Juana stood on the side of the road, the bright sunshine shining on her. Her fair skin was shiny, her long legs were straight and beautiful, and she looked as beautiful as a painting. Whether it was students or pedestrians passing by, their eyes couldn't help but be attracted by her, and even girls took a second look at her. As she was looking at the roadside and waiting, a call came into her cell phone. It was me. "I'm sorry, Juana. There's a traffic jam here. I'm afraid you'll have to wait for a while," I said apologetically. "It's okay, I'm already at the school gate." "Brother Ling, please drive slowly," Juana replied with a smile, her tone still sweet. Just after she hung up the phone, a rich second-generation man driving a BMW passed by the school gate and saw Juana at a glance. The second-generation rich man's eyes were instantly fixed on Juana. His eyes were fixed on her, and he murmured, "This girl is amazing." The sun was very strong that day, and my Bugatti Veyron slowly drove into the gate of Jinling Academy of Arts. The low roar of the engine attracted countless eyes, and students and pedestrians on the roadside stopped to watch. To be honest, I have long been accustomed to such scenes, but this time I had mixed feelings because there was a person standing outside the car window who was a little unexpected to me. Lin Warner. She was wearing a beige dress, with slightly exposed shoulders and long legs that were dazzlingly white in the sun. She stood there, constantly tidying up her messy hair, and occasionally looking around, as if waiting for me. Actually, it's better to say that she was waiting for her first experience of riding a supercar than waiting for me. Thinking of this, I couldn't help but chuckle. As soon as the car came to a steady stop, I saw an episode that came out of nowhere. A rich second-generation man driving a BMW stopped in front of Warner and smiled what he thought was a very handsome smile. "Beauty, are you waiting for someone? Do you want me to buy you a cup of coffee and chat with you?" I raised my eyebrows slightly. I was really tired of seeing such plots in TV dramas. Juana was obviously a little impatient and replied coldly, "No, thank you. I'm waiting for a friend." The smile on the rich second-generation's face froze for a moment, but it was clear that he was not someone who would give up easily. He changed his strategy, got out of the car with a smile, and tried to show himself. "Beauty, why don't you add WeChat? Even if you are waiting for your friend, we can still get to know each other first." Warner's face turned even colder, and she even took a step back, but she remained polite and didn't say anything. Just when I thought this rich second-generation guy would continue to pester me, the engine of the Bugatti roared again, as if to help Warner out. "Warner, get in the car." I lowered the window and waved at her. The second-generation rich man's expression changed instantly. His eyes widened bigger than the headlights. He stared at the Bugatti Veyron, especially the golden A99999 license plate, and his aura instantly dissipated. He swallowed his saliva and stammered, "So you were waiting for a friend? What a misunderstanding." Then he got back into the car in shame and ran away like a mouse. Warner stood there awkwardly, as if she hadn't expected the car I was driving to be so high-profile. She trotted over, lowered her head slightly, and got into the car. A fresh fragrance filled my nose, and her face was slightly flushed. To be honest, her outfit and this beautiful face would attract attention wherever she was. However, what made me laugh and cry was that as soon as she got in the car, a black cylindrical object rolled out of her handbag, an anti-wolf baton. Seeing me staring at it, she blushed instantly and stammered to explain. "Brother Ling, this is brought out as lipstick." I raised my eyebrows, but before I could say anything, a bottle of pepper spray fell out of her bag. I picked up the spray and couldn't help laughing. "Warner, it seems that you are very wary of me." "Brother Ling, it's not like that. I'm just afraid of meeting bad people." Warner explained incoherently, but the blush on her face deepened. Okay, I understand, I'm safe." I chuckled, put the equipment aside, and started the car. Just as we were about to leave, a girl in a short skirt and high heels suddenly knocked on the car window. She leaned over, showing her amazing cleavage, and smiled sweetly. "Handsome, can you add me on WeChat?" I glanced at her and replied calmly, "Sorry, I'm not interested in adding strangers on WeChat." After saying that, I rolled up the car window and drove away. Warner, who was sitting in the passenger seat, glanced at me secretly, and the corners of her mouth couldn't help but slightly raised, as if she was proud of my behavior just now. At this moment, I suddenly felt that today's trip seemed to become interesting. Chapter 15, Don't Provoke Me. This way. Lynn Warner had already sat in the passenger seat naturally. She smiled sweetly at Chu Ling and said, "Where are we going?" Chu Ling turned his head and looked at Lin Wana, who was smiling sweetly. His eyes made Lin Wana blush. "What are you looking at, Brother Ling? How embarrassing it is to look at others like this." But Brother Ling looks really good looking. Chu Ling's kind of handsomeness is a very special kind of handsomeness, the kind that looks very handsome at first glance, but becomes more attractive the more you look at it. Especially the way he just chased away the flies for himself. It was so cool, wasn't it? Thinking about the rich second generation running away, she felt sweet in her heart. Lin Wanner felt that her mind was filled with a myriad of thoughts, as if she had a little deer in her heart, and her heart was beating exceptionally fast. Vanna? Chu Lang spoke? Lin Vanna's heartbeat quickened. Was she going to say something important? Ha! Her white and tender little ears also became hot and turned a pink color. At that moment, she also became shy and said softly, "I'm here, Brother Ling. Do you have anything to say?" At this moment, Wanner felt herself trembling a little and was waiting for Chu Ling to speak. The next moment, "You haven't fastened your seatbelt yet." Lin Vanna. "Oh my God, didn't I make such a huge mistake? This is so embarrassing." People are just reminding themselves to obey traffic rules and fasten their seatbelts when sitting in the passenger seat. Lin Vanna. Oh, Lin Vanna. Wake up. While reminding herself to stay awake, Lin Wanner pulled the seatbelt, but found that she couldn't find the socket. Are the seatbelt positions of this luxury car different from those of other cars? Chu Ling hadn't started the car yet. He waited for a while, but didn't see Lin Wanner fasten her seatbelt. He turned around and saw her looking for something next to the seat. Lin Wanner was still holding the seatbelt in her right hand. Chu Ling laughed out loud when he saw it. Maybe he couldn't find the seatbelt socket? Seeing this, Chu Ling leaned forward and stretched out his left hand to pull the seatbelt. Lin Wanner never expected Chu Ling to come over so suddenly, and she leaned back against the chair subconsciously. But my heart was already in extreme panic. This posture is too ambiguous, isn't it? In such a small space in the car, there is no place to hide. Brother Ling wants to hug me? But Chu Ling just pulled the seat belt over and fastened it for her. The socket has always been here, but it's blocked by your bag. This simple sentence made Lin Wanner blush again. Wanner pouted angrily. Her dark eyes widened as she looked at Chu Ling. "Brother Ling, you are the legendary straight man, right? Haha, you're pretending to be an LSP online. Shame on you." Chu Ling looked helpless. "What does that mean? You don't understand romance, and you can't coax girls?" Then, Chu Ling simply lifted Lin Wanner's chin with his finger, and for a moment, their eyes met. Even Chu Ling could feel that Lin Wanner's body trembled violently, and then her face turned red instantly. She looked like a panicked little rabbit. Then, Chu Ling moved towards Lin Wanner. Lin Wanner looked at Chu Ling, who was slowly approaching her, and she felt as if she was wrapped in heat. She regretted provoking Brother Ling just now. Could it be that today my first kiss will be given here? As she thought about it, she nervously closed her eyes and let him take what he wanted. After a while, a gust of wind blew past her ears, causing her body to tremble for a moment. "Little girl, if it weren't for the small space in the car, you wouldn't be able to escape today. If you provoke me again, you know the consequences." Chu Ling looked at Wanner's expression and burst into laughter after he finished speaking. Amid his laughter, the car drove towards Jinling Wanda Plaza. After listening to what Chu Ling said just now, Lin Wanner wanted to fight back, but she didn't dare. After all his weapons had been taken away. What qualifications do you have to act so aggressively? Chapter 16. Suffering a loss. It was still early, and there were not many cars on the road. So along the way, almost all the cars subconsciously stayed away from the Bugatti Veyron. Cherish life and stay away from luxury cars. Lin Wanna also noticed this. She giggled in the car. When she laughed, she looked like a girl next door. Did you see that? When the car owners saw you, they ran away as if they were seeing a tiger. A Bugatti Veyron worth 50 or 60 million is on the road. It's so terrifying. Chu Ling looked straight ahead at the road conditions and added, "Are you still laughing at me? If you bought a car, wouldn't you still have to hide from me?" Critical hit. It's basically a one-shot kill. Lin Wanna was choked by Chu Ling and was speechless. She could only sit in the driver's seat and remain silent. If it weren't for the fact that Chu Ling was so handsome, Lin Wanner would have wanted to turn into a big tiger and eat him alive. This is so infuriating. But what Chu Ling said made sense. Once the reward is received, can he buy a car? Okay, forget it. I'll just treat Brother Ling to a meal when the time comes. It's not bad to gain some popularity for free. At this time, they also drove to Wanda Plaza. Jinling Wanda Plaza is one of the best shopping malls, with many customers coming here to shop every day. There are also various restaurants and entertainment venues, making this place bustling and prosperous at all times. Many girls, accompanied by their boyfriends, were holding hands and talking in the middle of the square. For the date, they wore their favorite outfits in their wardrobes. The skirt is so short that it reveals her long white legs, which is a beautiful scenery in the square. Many single men and women also came here to hang out with their friends. They saw couples behaving intimately. Although they couldn't hear their whispers, they were fed a lot of dog food by seeing their happy expressions. There was some congestion at the entrance of the parking lot, so Chu Ling had to drive forward bit by bit. Many people were attracted by the cool appearance of the Bugatti Veyron and talked about it in low voices. Wow, it's actually a Bugatti Veyron. This is the first time I've seen a real car of this type. It looks 10,000 times better than in the picture. The passenger seat seems to be a young lady. This young lady is so lucky to have found such a rich boyfriend who is willing to accompany her shopping. This car is super expensive. It looks like it must cost tens of millions, right? It's so beautiful. Tens of millions? You can just look at the price, okay? This car is limited to a global scale. Let's not talk about whether you can buy it. Even if you can, it will cost 50 or 60 million. Let's not even think about buying it. The money we have to maintain the car can buy many BBA cars. These people not only envied Chu Ling's most powerful super sports car on the planet, but were also jealous of Lin Wanner, who was sitting in the passenger seat. When Lin Wanner saw the jealous looks from those people, she couldn't help but straighten her body, feeling proud of it. At this time, Chu Ling had already driven his car into the underground garage. He heard the security guard and the driver of the car in front say that there might be no parking spaces inside and asked him to go in and look for one himself. The driver in front complained a lot, but still drove down the garage as he was told. The security guard originally looked shy and listless, but when he saw the Bugatti Veyron out of the corner of his eyes almost popped out. Such a cool car actually drove to Wanda Plaza? These security guards have all been trained and are familiar with some good car brands. They hear the name of Bugatti Veyron every day, but this is the first time they have seen it. The security guard sitting in the security booth stood up, opened the door, and walked out. He saluted Chu Ling in the driver's seat and said, "Sir, please wait a moment. We can see which area has vacancies now." The manager has given a strict order that they must be nice to the owners of these luxury cars, as they cannot afford to offend these people. Lin Wanner, who was sitting in the passenger seat, said, "You really are treating people differently. Just now I told them to go down and look for it themselves, but now when they see a luxury car, they can check the parking spaces in the area." To put it bluntly, the security guard is just lazy. Only when I saw the luxury car coming did I develop a little professional ethics. Chu Ling waved his hand and said, "No, I'll just go down and take a look." After saying that, he pulled the handbrake, told Lin Wanner to wait in the car, and drove towards the underground garage. The garage is packed with cars, and it is indeed difficult to find a parking space, which shows how prosperous Wanda Plaza's business is. But soon, Chu Ling saw two cars about to drive out not far away. Two parking spaces connected together are quite nice. Chu Ling thought about it, then took a plastic hat next to him and put it on the vacant parking space. At this time, another car also backed out of the parking space and nodded to Chu Ling. The car owner could see that Chu Ling planned to wait until he had driven out completely before parking. This behavior of giving way made things much more convenient for the car owner, so naturally he wanted to express his gratitude. Chu Ling watched the two cars leave and was about to drive away when suddenly a car rushed out from the diagonal, driving at an alarming speed. A Porsche Panamera rushed over and knocked the plastic hat off. If Chu Ling, who was standing next to the hat, had not reacted quickly and jumped back a step in time, his body would have been knocked away by the inertia of the car. At this moment, the Porsche made a braking sound, which was a bit harsh. The car stopped steadily, lying between the two parking spaces. Chu Ling was standing not far from the car and could hear the loud music that had not stopped in the car, as well as the flirting between a man and a woman. Thinking of the thrilling scene just now, some anger flashed in Chu Ling's deep eyes. It would have been fine if this car owner almost hit me, but now he's taken up two parking spaces at once. What does that mean? Chu Ling suppressed the anger in his heart and walked forward and knocked on the window of the Porsche Panamera. The car window was lowered. Before Chu Ling could say anything, he heard a man's arrogant voice. "Why are you knocking? If it breaks, can you afford to pay for it?" Chu Ling looked at the man in the car. The man looked to be about 24 or 25 years old, wearing international brand fashion, and had an impatient look on his face. You are taking up 2 parking spaces. Can you give one to me? Chu Ling's voice was a little cold. The rich second generation took a look at the Armani fashion on Chu Ling. It did look authentic, but the style was something he had never seen before. If it's something he hasn't even seen before, it must be a fake. He has browsed all the new models in China, but there is nothing like the one Chu Ling is wearing. When the rich second generation thought of this, he felt more confident. This kind of confidence made him furious, and he started to curse at Chu Ling. Boy, I haven't settled the score with you yet, and you still dare to come and talk to me? What do you mean by putting a broken plastic hat there? I tell you, if I see my car is scratched, you will have to pay for it. Thinking of the plastic hat that was knocked off by him, the rich second generation's heart began to ache. This Porsche Panamera is a new car he bought. He gets furious whenever he thinks about the possibility of it being scratched. It really hurts me. The second-generation rich man sneered at Chu Ling. Besides, what's wrong with me taking up 2 parking spaces? Who are you to have the nerve to ask me to give you a parking space? Don't you see what kind of car I have? It's a Porsche Panamera, a luxury car. Don't you understand? If you have a Porsche, you can also take up 2 parking spaces, but get out of the way. The end of a sentence. Chu Ling was so angry that he laughed. He stared into the eyes of the rich second generation and asked, After all, you just don't want to give up the parking space, right? You don't understand Chinese, right? Why should I give you a parking space? Get away from me. The rich second generation cursed without hesitation and even opened the car door, wanting to come forward and beat Chu Ling up. But after getting off the car, the rich second generation discovered that Chu Ling was almost a head taller than him. If it was just the height, it would be easy to explain. Chu Ling is not only tall, but also has a stronger body. The well-tailored Armani dress was held up perfectly by Chu Ling, making her look no worse than a supermodel. Chu Ling looks smart and capable like this, and compared to his muscular body, he is much stronger. Thinking about his body hollowed out by alcohol and sex, the rich second generation became more and more cowardly, and his fists, which were full of strength, loosened little by little. If a fight really breaks out, he will obviously suffer. Chapter 17, The King. Chu Ling looked down at the rich second generation, his eyes filled with endless coldness. You want to do it? If you want to do it quickly. Don't waste time. Huh, kid. So that's what you were planning. The rich second generation's eyes lit up instantly, as if he had caught Chu Ling's pigtail. Are you waiting for me to make a move and then blackmail me, right? You are so mean. I'm telling you, I won't be fooled. You actually want to blackmail him for money? That's wishful thinking. Chu Ling was too lazy to look at the rich second generation any longer, so he turned around and walked to the side. The second-generation rich man looked at Chu Ling's back as he left, and said to his female companion sitting in the passenger seat, These poor people are still self-aware. When they saw that their plan was exposed by me, they didn't even dare to say a word and just left in disgrace. The female companion hugged the rich second-generation's arm with a flattering look on her face, and said in a coquettish voice, Brother must be the best. Brother, you are so great. Don't you want to give your sister a bag? Hee. The rich second generation looked at his female companion with a smirk on his face, and the two began to whisper in the car. At the same time, Chu Ling walked to the side and stopped a Wuling Hongguang van. What's the matter, brother? The van driver was a middle-aged man. He was not angry when he was suddenly stopped. Instead, he looked at Chu Ling enthusiastically. He was a very good-tempered person. Chu Ling looked at him with a smile and said, I want to discuss something with you, big brother. The two of them communicated in a low voice that only they could hear for a while. The eldest brother stretched out his arm from the car, patted Chu Ling on the shoulder, and said very righteously, There is no use for you to buy this broken car of mine. It's just blocking his car. It's no big deal. Anyway, I don't use it much, so it doesn't matter if I leave it here for a few days. The eldest brother is an open-minded person. He usually hates those rich second generations who become arrogant just because they have a little money. Having such a good opportunity to take revenge on them, the eldest brother happily agreed. Then he got out of the car and gave the car keys to Chu Ling. Chu Ling naturally wouldn't let his elder brother work in vain, so he took out a stack of money and stuffed it over. It was a pretty thick stack, about 2,000 yuan. The eldest brother refused twice and finally took it. Then Chu Ling got in the car, stepped on the accelerator, and drove over, blocking the 2 parking spaces tightly. After blocking the parking space, I immediately pulled the handbrake and locked the car door. The rich second generation was still arguing with his female companion in the car and had no idea that the two of them were trapped in the parking space. Chu Ling walked over slowly and said to the rich second generation, Since you like these two parking spaces so much, then enjoy them here. He just didn't believe that this guy's car could run sideways. As long as he couldn't, he would be trapped inside. Damn it, this bastard is causing trouble. The rich second generation finally realized the fact that they were trapped. He looked at Chu Ling's back as he left, and he was so angry. The more he thought about it, the angrier he got. He started to curse. These poor bastards are so difficult to deal with. They drove a broken Wuling Hongguang and dared to block my car. Damn it. But no matter how the rich second generation curses or how much they look down on Wuling Hongguang, this car will not disappear out of thin air. The second generation of rich people surrounded the Wuling Hongguang and looked at it for a long time. The place where the car was parked was too small, and the width reserved in the front and rear was impossible to get out. This is totally against him. Chu Ling didn't bother to care about how the rich second generation was yelling and cursing. He had already driven his car up there to look for a new parking space. When Lin Wanner saw Chu Ling coming back, she asked him about what happened with great concern. She said angrily, "This kind of malicious occupation of parking spaces is really abominable." The cute tone of voice, coupled with the extremely tender face, made Chu Ling laugh out loud. When a girl like this comes around, most men would be so attracted by her that there would be no chance for an argument. I'm afraid he will turn from being aggressive to being a bootlicker in an instant. Let's go shopping." Chu Ling found a parking space, parked the car, and called Lin Wanner to go shopping together. Lin Wanner also often comes to Wanda Plaza for shopping, but after all, she is just a poor student, so most of the time she comes here just to stroll around. She followed Chu Ling and went straight to the high-end luxury brand area upstairs. Shock flashed across Lin Wanner's eyes, but she thought it was perfectly normal. After all, Chu Ling gave a reward of 100,000 yuan at once, and he drove a Bugatti. The financial resources of such a person should not be underestimated. He was not as wealthy as she could imagine. For people like this to buy luxury goods is just like for ordinary people to go to the supermarket to buy a bag of salt. Chu Ling was thinking about the Patek Philippe Prince watch he had signed for before, and he happened to come here to pick it up today. So he took Lin Wanner directly to the Patek Philippe store. The decoration style of Patek Philippe stores is a unified black decoration, which looks both high-end and elegant. At this time, Zhao Lan, who was standing at the door, saw Chu Ling and Lin Wanner and immediately came over. "Hello, both of you. Welcome to the Patek Philippe store. It's a pleasure to serve you." Zhao Lan greeted them politely while looking at Chu Ling's clothes inconspicuously. After all, Zhao Lan worked for a top international luxury store and had much more experience than those rich second generations. She recognized the Armani fashion on Chu Ling at a glance. This is either the latest model or high-end custom-made. With this understanding, Zhao Lan's attitude towards Chu Ling and Lin Wanner became better, and her voice became softer. Lin Wanner just felt that this was a really great feeling. It was really the first time she met such a qualified shopping guide. When Lin Wanner thought of this, her eyes involuntarily turned to Chu Ling, who was standing beside her. It is because of this man's existence that everything has become different. "Sir, let me take you to our high-end area to see if there is any style that you like." Zhao Lan raised her hand respectfully and took Chu Ling to the high-end area first. Each of Patek Philippe's high-end watches costs more than 500,000 renminbi. This Patek Philippe store is of relatively high quality, and even some platinum models are in stock. Under the spotlight, they emit a special glow that is quite dazzling. Lin Wanner didn't know much about watches. She just occasionally stretched her head to take a look and then pursed her lips. Why are there so many zeros after this price? A watch like this costs more than 500,000? The piece next to it looks exactly the same, but the price is 3 times higher, costing more than 1,500,000. While Lin Wanner was stunned, Chu Ling had already walked to a separate display cabinet for another watch. There was just a bright photo placed in the middle of the 4 spotlights. The photo shows a real picture of the Wanjua watch. Chu Ling just thought it was very funny and laughed out loud. He looked at Zhao Lan beside him and said with a smile, "Your store is really interesting. You set up a separate counter to display photos. Quite creative." Zhao Lan did not feel embarrassed, but explained politely, "Sir, are you interested in our Wanjua watch? This is one of the top watches under our brand and also the most classic style. It adopts the classic small 3-hand style and has complex timepiece functions, such as perpetual calendar, moon phase, and chronograph, which are all very practical functions. Moreover, our King watch only has one platinum model, which highlights the noble status of this watch." Lin Wanner was so absorbed in listening that her beautiful almond-shaped eyes widened slightly. After Zhao Lan finished speaking, she asked, "How much does such a nice watch cost?" 24 million RMB. Zhao Lan answered in a resounding voice. It is precisely because of the amazing value of this watch that the original watch was not taken out, but a photo was put up for people to appreciate. Moreover, not everyone can own a royal watch. Even Patek Philippe's official website clearly states that only 2 of these top-level complex timepieces are produced each year. It's not that the official website thinks that rare objects are worth living, but it's really impossible to produce more. This is the most complicated handmade watch in the world. A small part may require a master to polish it for 10 days or half a month before it reaches the qualified standard. Looking at Zhao Lan's proud face, Chu Ling smiled and said, "I made an appointment to pick up a watch. This is my ID card." "Okay, sir. I'll check for you." Zhao Lan was stunned for a moment and quickly took out her tablet to check. After seeing the message, she was stunned. This gentleman actually ordered a Wangjua watch. That's the prince she just praised to the sky. Ew. Please wait a moment. This watch needs to be transferred from the Suzhou and Hangzhou headquarters, so it may take a while. Zhao Lan was so excited that she couldn't speak. She quickly ran to the back room to call the manager and tell him about this. As soon as Zhao Lan left, the rich second-generation man came in with his female companion. Chapter 18, Disguise. "My dear, as long as you serve your brother well, I will definitely buy you whatever clothes or bags you want." The second-generation rich man put his arm on his female companion's shoulders and stared at her body with lustful eyes. He looked like a lustful devil, and if this wasn't a public place, he would have taken action directly. The female companion giggled, not showing any disgust at all. Instead, she intentionally or unintentionally puffed out her chest to make her proud figure more obvious. At this time, another shopping guide from the Patek Philippe store came over and spoke to the 2 of them in a low voice. The female companion looked around and saw Chu Ling and Lin Wanner at a glance. A hint of surprise flashed in the female companion's eyes, and she gently tugged at the corner of the rich second-generation's clothes. The female companion Lin Jing's face changed slightly, and she pointed in the direction of Chu Ling and Lin Wanner. As soon as the rich second generation saw Chu Ling, he immediately became angry and came over to scold Chu Ling. It was all because of this bastard that he blocked his way out. He must not let Chu Ling off easily. It would be fine if he couldn't touch him, but Chu Ling had the bad luck to appear in front of him. This was God's punishment for him. "Damn it, I'm going to scold him to death," said the rich second generation as he was about to walk towards Chu Ling. Unexpectedly, before he could move, he was caught by his female companion. Seeing his female companion grabbing his arm, the rich second generation was a little stunned. "What's wrong?" The female companion shook her head slightly, looked at the shopping guide beside her, leaned close to the rich second generation's ear, and whispered, "Can I mean that? Look at the girl next to that boy. She is the cousin I was talking about. Lin Jing is Lin Wanner's cousin. The rich second generation guy next to her is called Fang Jun, and he is her new boyfriend. To be precise, it's the new rich guy I've hooked up with." Lin Jing looked at Lin Wanner with extremely complicated emotions in her eyes. How should I put it? Lin Wanner is the other kid that Lin Jing's mother talks about every day. She has been a good student since she was young. She is also pretty, and she does everything quietly and gently. Later, Lin Jing heard from her mother that this cousin had been admitted to Jinling Academy of Arts. That is one of the best universities in Jinling. It can be said that except for her family conditions, Lin Wanner is better than her in every way. But the more this happened, the more Lin Jing sneered. Why? A child from a poor family wants to make a comeback? Why did she counterattack? Lin Jing, who was originally jealous and a little angry, actually felt relieved when she met Lin Wanner here today. It feels like a huge stone that has been weighing on my heart for years has finally been lifted off my shoulders. Today she saw Lin Wanner and Chu Ling together, and suddenly she felt balanced. You, Lin Wanner, are so outstanding in every aspect, so what can we do? After searching for a long time, you still found someone who drives a Wuling Hongguang, right? When he gets angry, he is just a fool who dares to block the road with a Wuling Hongguang. It's really funny when I think about it. A beautiful schoolgirl from Jinling Academy of Arts falls in love with a man who drives a van? As expected, poor people can only find children from poor families as companions. Poor thinking has restricted them, and they will never be able to break out of that vicious circle. When Lin Jing thought of this, a smile suddenly appeared on the corner of his mouth unconsciously. When Fang Jun heard Lin Jing's words, he frowned. Cousin? I seem to have some impression. Is this the distant cousin you mentioned before? the one who was studying at Jinling University. As Fong Jun spoke, he looked at Lin Wanner beside Chu Ling. After just one glance, Fong Jun was stunned where he was. He didn't want to stare at it stupidly, but his eyes were out of control, and he couldn't move them away. This little girl is so pretty. Those eyes seem to be able to speak, so bright and lively. If you look at a girl like this every day, wouldn't you live several years longer? If I could get it, I would probably take it every day, right? As soon as Fong Jun had this thought, it was like a feather was sweeping across his heart, making him feel itchy. How can such a beautiful girl be with a loser? That Chu Ling is just good-looking, but his character is not that good in any other aspects. Look at him. When he gets angry, he blocks other people's cars and wears fake brand-name clothes. You can tell at first glance that he is a vain and face-conscious man. You don't have money but still want to pretend? Fong Jun had just made up his mind when he saw Lin Jing's sneer on his face. He looked at Chu Ling and Lin Wanner with disdain and whispered, "As expected, children from poor families are inherently poor. After so much selection, they can only find someone who drives a Wuling. This world is so realistic. Men and women with bad eyesight are destined to get worse and worse. Humph, you have no money, but you still come to Patek Philippe to hang out. Are you here to show off? This is a top international watch store. How can there be any cheap watches here? My cousin must have been deceived by the man and actually followed him here. Humph, the man will definitely find an excuse to run away soon. So I'll just wait here and watch Lin Wanna make a fool of herself." Lin Jing's eyes almost lit up when she thought of something happy. After listening to Lin Jing's words, Fong Jun already had an idea in his mind. He sneered in his heart. Such a good opportunity was right in front of him. If he didn't seize it, he would be sorry for Chu Ling's cooperation with him. Just when he was trying to save face in front of the beauty, Chu Ling came in and showed off. Do you really think you can pick up girls by pretending to be rich? If this is true, then I am in a very secure position. Thinking of Lin Wanner's beautiful face, Fong Jun looked at Chu Ling and just saw him taking Lin Wanner and looking at a watch. Fong Jun had been to Patek Philippe several times and was quite familiar with the layout here. What Chu Ling was looking at was the low-end area. Fong Jun and Lin Jing looked at each other, then walked towards the two of them with a smile. Chu Ling heard footsteps beside him and looked over casually and saw Fong Jun and Lin Jing. He also looked at them with a bad expression. What does it mean when these two people come over? Lin Jing simply glanced at Chu Ling, then looked at Lin Wanner and said with a smile, "Wanner, I am your sister Jingjing. You really have changed a lot since you grew up, and you are getting more and more beautiful. When I saw you just now, I didn't even recognize you." Lin Wanner frowned and thought for a long time before she said with a look of sudden enlightenment, "You are my cousin Lin Jing? That's right. You don't have any impression of me at all, do you?" Lin Jing said while pretending to be hurt. Lin Wanner waved her hands quickly and said, "Of course not. It's just that we haven't been together much in recent years, so I didn't think about it for a while." After Lin Wanner finished explaining, Lin Jing snorted in his heart. "Of course we have less contact. You are still poor, but my family has become rich and well off. Naturally, we have to cut off contact with poor relatives like you. Oh, by the way, let me introduce you. This is Fong Jun, my boyfriend. Lin Ting Tienlessly introduced Fang Yun Zu Lin Vener." Lin Wanner didn't like the way Fong Jun looked at her, so she just nodded slightly as a token of acquaintance. Chu Ling lowered his head and whispered in Lin Wanner's ear, "Are they really your relatives? It's so sad to have such relatives." Lin Wanner was shocked by Chu Ling's magnetic voice. Isn't this too bassy? It's so good that her legs are weak. Even in such an ambiguous posture, Lin Wanner could feel the hot breath from Chu Ling, which made her face flush. "I guess so, but the relationship is quite distant, so the relationship is not very good." Lin Wanner said it tactfully. Chu Ling nodded. If that was the case, then he understood. Since their relationship is just average, he doesn't have to worry about anything. Fong Jun was still greedily sizing up Lin Wanner. In order to gain the favor of the beautiful woman, he said hypocritically, "I'm so sorry. It turns out that we are all acquaintances." "Oh, we are no match for each other. My attitude just now is a bit bad, but you were too unkind, brother. You can't park your Wuling Hongguang behind my Panamera to block me just because we have a disagreement." When he spoke, he deliberately emphasized the words Wuling Hongguang, as if he was afraid that people around him couldn't hear him. The customers who were looking at watches in the store all looked over after hearing Fong Jun's words, and there was a hint of contempt in their eyes when they looked at Chu Ling. "I only drive a Wuling Hongguang. Is it necessary to come to a top store like Patek Philippe to buy a watch?" If you have that money, why not use it to improve your family's life? Some people even started laughing quietly and whispering to those around them. Chapter 19, What to Pretend. It's over. I guess this boy brought his girlfriend out to show off, but he was exposed. He can't pretend anymore, right? Ah, so pitiful. You know what? That girl is really pretty. Look at that face full of collagen. She doesn't look very old at all. Wow, she's really enviable. Isn't it because I'm young? Now at my age, even if you buy a low-end Patek Philippe and try to cheat me, I won't be fooled. It's great to be young. You take being cheated so seriously. The onlookers also had preconceived ideas. After hearing Fong Jun's words, they immediately regarded Chu Ling as a poor kid who was showing off, and they ate melons crazily beside him. As if by doing this, one can elevate one's status. Fong Jun felt even more proud when he saw the contemptuous looks from the guests around him. Yes, that's the rhythm we need. Everyone should despise him together and force him to show his most ferocious face, and then see if Lin Warner can still follow him. Brother, are you here to buy a watch too? Which one do you plan to buy? Fong Jun looked at Chu Ling with a smile and asked in a pretendingly kind manner. As Fong Jun was talking, he stretched his head to look at the counter that Chu Ling and the others had just looked at, and found that it was full of low-end watches worth only about 10,000 or 20,000 yuan. With a slight smile on his lips, Fong Jun felt a little proud. It was indeed like this. This Chu Ling had no money at all. This is the moment he has been waiting for. Fong Jun raised his head, looked directly at Chu Ling, and said in a very familiar tone, "Don't look at this low-end watch worth tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands. A man should buy a good watch, which can also motivate himself to live a good life. Don't you think so? How about you buy the same one as me?" He spoke very loudly, and the guests around him looked at Fong Jun, wanting to know what watch the young man bought. Shopping guide, has the watch I ordered arrived today? Fong Jun pretended to be indifferent and looked at the shopping guide. The shopping guide was very elegant. Fong Jun came here often, so she knew him. She looked at Fong Jun and smiled. "Mr. Fong, your watch has arrived at the store. Do you want it to be taken out for you now?" Fong Jun nodded. "Take it out and show it to my brother. It's only a watch worth hundreds of thousands, but it's definitely much better than those low-end products." "Only tens of thousands? That's it?" The guests around only felt their mouth corners twitching. It seems that this young man is definitely a rich second generation. He is so young, but he asked for a watch worth hundreds of thousands of dollars just for fun. Do you really think money comes from the wind? The shopping guide was very quick and had already fetched Fong Jun's watch from the warehouse in the back. "Mr. Fong, you can check your watch now." The shopping guide placed the watch on the glass counter and gestured to Fong Jun to inspect the goods. Not only Fong Jun, other guests also turned their attention to the watch box. Fong Jun walked to the glass counter very solemnly and held his breath the moment he raised his hand. He was very nervous now because this was the first high-end watch in his life that truly belonged to him. Perhaps in the future, he will get something more valuable. But for Fong Jun, this was a very precious first time, and he took it very seriously. Gently opened the watch box to reveal a classic vintage watch inside. Inside the crystal white dial is a classic track dial, which looks very layered and is both pleasing to the eye and beautiful. With blue hands, it is a classic color combination of Patek Philippe. The casque and strap looks soft and comfortable, showing all the details of Patek Philippe and exuding luxurious texture everywhere. The guests around looked at him with envy and praised the exquisiteness of the watch. This watch is so beautiful. It is indeed a classic model of Patek Philippe. It can be worn for hundreds of years and will never go out of style. If you say so, I really can't refute you. After all, this is a classic model. It is originally modeled after the previous design, but the core is more powerful. Look at the color. Is it 18K gold? This kind of gold watch is low-key, luxurious, and has connotation. It shows young people's taste. Fong Jun was so happy that he was a little bit in a trance. He couldn't suppress the smile on his face and raised his head in a big arc. "Oh, what's the big deal? I just wanted to be low-key, so I chose this one. The meaning of my words and deeds is to reveal one message. My ability is more than that. I just lowered my requirements and bought a piece to carry around casually." This young man has an extraordinary family background. Receiving so many envious looks, not only was Fong Jun extremely proud, but even Lin Jing's nostrils were rising to the sky. "I am truly honored by it. The car you drive is a Porsche Panamera, and the watch you wear is a Patek Philippe worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Cousin, what else can you compare with me?" Your man is just average looking. But what's the use of a man being handsome? Can you use your face to brush it? Lin Jing looked at her cousin Lin Wanner with a smile and whispered, Sister, your vision of men is a little too poor, isn't it? Lin Wanner just smiled and said nothing. There was no need for her to tell her about Chu Ling's strengths, and Lin Jing, the so-called cousin, didn't need to know about it. Lin Jing did not understand what Lin Wanner meant, but became even more complacent. It seems that my cousin is also convinced, so she is so soft and silent. Fong Jun picked up the watch slowly, his fingertips trembling with excitement. But he pretended to be indifferent, put it on his wrist lightly, shook it at Chu Ling, and said, How about it, brother? How about my watch? Let me tell you, no one knows which famous watch will retain its value. If you want to buy one, choose a classic model. Not only will you wear it for a long time, but you may even be able to make money in a few years. Then he looked at the shopping guide next to him. Shopping guide, please let this guy try on my watch. People need to see more high-end things to be more passionate about striving. Just as the shopping guide was about to speak, Fong Jun slapped his forehead and said apologetically, Look at my brain. I've got the problem wrong again. By the way, you look like you were still in school, right? I didn't think it through. You and I are in different situations. I work so hard every day, meeting clients and discussing business. I always need some good equipment to show off. I have no other choice. But listen to me. Even if you are a student, you should not wear those low-end watches, understand? Let me pick out a few mid-range watches for you. Those that cost 70,000 or 80,000 should be enough. When the other guests heard Fong Jun say that accompanying clients was necessary to show off, they nodded in agreement. Who would be willing to wear such an expensive watch for no reason? Isn't it just to show off and to show it to clients to demonstrate one's financial strength? At this time, a shopping guide came over with a watch worth about 70,000 or 80,000 yuan and handed it to Chu Ling with both hands. Chu Ling just took a glance and directly refused to try it on. He really doesn't like such a low-end watch. Fong Jun was watching from the side, and in his opinion, Chu Ling's disdain was an embarrassment that he could not afford. It's okay, brother. The manager here is my friend. He can give you a preferential price. Otherwise, you can just place the order directly. Fong Jun was deliberately provoking Chu Ling. He wanted to see him completely humiliated. Chu Ling just smiled faintly and said, It's too cheap, forget it. As soon as Chu Ling's words came out, everyone was shocked. But soon, surprise turned into disdain. Fong Jun and Lin Jing looked at each other and saw sneers in each other's eyes. If you don't have money, just say so. Why are you pretending to be so high and mighty? Lin Jing couldn't pretend anymore. She sneered and covered her mouth and said, Too cheap? Ha, you really dare to say that. 70,000 or 80,000 is too cheap. Do you know that 70,000 or 80,000 is the total income of many families in 1 or 2 years? Alas, some people nowadays are like this. They drive Wuling Hongguang, but they still pretend to be rich. Sister, you must not be fooled. Chapter 20. Not bad. She wanted to expose Chu Ling in front of everyone and drag Lin Wanner into it, so that both of their faces would rub against each other. Fong Jun also jumped out at the right time, looked at Lin Wanner meaningfully, and said loudly, My cousin is so young, it's normal for you to be inaccurate in judging people. When the time comes, add me your contact information and tell me what kind of boys you like. I will definitely help you solve your personal problems. What he said was very meaningful. Helping you solve your personal problems does not mean introducing you to a man. Isn't the only good candidate yourself, who is both far away and right in front of you? No need. Lin Wanner refused with a cold face. The guests all shook their heads, feeling that Lin Wanner was hopeless. Such a pretty girl chooses to follow a young man who only knows how to show off. She will regret it sooner or later. Just at this moment, a man walked in, looking exhausted, as if he had just come back from outside. As soon as Fong Jun saw the man, he immediately became excited. This person is the general manager of Patek Philippe in Suzhou and Hangzhou. He is one of the top managers in Suzhou and Hangzhou and has very strong abilities. More importantly, his network of contacts is unimaginably strong. The clients they serve are all super rich people from all over China, not ordinary multimillionaires who are just doing small business. Fong Jun once had the honor of meeting this manager at a banquet. At that time, he took the initiative to go forward and hand the other person a cigarette, but the other person didn't even bother to look at him, as if he was afraid of wasting his eyes. But Fong Jun didn't feel embarrassed. These things could better reflect how capable the manager was, didn't they? Seeing Fong Jun's expression, Lin Jing asked him in a low voice who this man was. In order to show off his extensive network of contacts, Fang Jun briefly described the manager's deeds and concluded, "This manager is no ordinary person." Just as Lin Jing and a few other guests were looking at the manager with admiration, the manager had already walked towards them. Fang Jun felt excited. Could it be that what I just said was heard by the manager? So that's why the manager is giving me this face. Is he planning to shake hands with me personally? Fang Jun was already ecstatic. This was such a huge honor. So excited. He even extended his hand, fully prepared to shake the manager's hand. But what he didn't expect was that the manager walked right past him and continued walking forward. At this time, Zhao Lan, who was in the room inside, also came out after finishing her work. She came to Chu Ling and introduced him to the manager. "Manager, this is Mr. Chu." After a word, the manager trembled, then hurried over to shake hands with Chu Ling. He lowered his head slightly, looking humble and submissive. This look and movement, everyone behind him gasped, including Fang Jun. This? For a moment, everyone's eyes widened, and they couldn't believe what they saw. They all watched it all happen in amazement, not being able to react at all. Why were things not as they expected? Why did the manager walk directly towards Chu Ling and speak so respectfully? Fang Jun had introduced the manager's qualifications to them. Such a person was someone they all had to look up to. Why was he so polite to a young boy? Everyone was shocked and felt sorry for the manager. Maybe I recognized the wrong person? Just as they were thinking this, "Mr. Chu, I'm really sorry to have kept you waiting." The manager spoke very gently, and that humility seemed to be written into his bones, so natural that it seemed indescribable. Whether it was his expression, movements, words, or tone, they were all extremely respectful, and the people present felt like their heads were buzzing. The feeling was so terrible that they could already sense that something was wrong. Chu Ling smiled faintly, stretched out his hand, and shook it with the manager. "It's okay. Did you get my watch?" "Of course. I have brought your Patek Philippe Prince watch, and I am glad to have fulfilled your mission." The manager nodded vigorously, and he spoke loudly, so that everyone in the store could hear him clearly. As soon as the term Patek Philippe Prince watch came out, everyone present was shocked and stood there in a daze. It was like a bomb exploding, knocking them dizzy. Those who have been to the store know that this Patek Philippe Prince is located in the high-end area. Moreover, what is displayed there is not the real thing, but a photo. This shows how precious this watch is. Chu Ling actually ordered a Patek Philippe Prince watch? That's a price tag of over 20 million, and it's not a famous watch that anyone can afford. How is this possible? But everyone knew it clearly in their minds. The general manager was present in person, and the authenticity of the matter had been confirmed. There is absolutely no room for doubt. The general manager of Patek Philippe came personally to deliver the watch, so how could it be fake? Spending more than 20 million to buy a watch with this amount of wealth? Can it be simple? Fang Jun and others stared at the watch box in the general manager's hand with red eyes and watched him hand it to Chu Ling with both hands. "Mr. Chu, this watch box is totally unsuitable for your noble status. I have prepared a crystal watch box for you in the store. Please wait a moment." As the manager spoke, he signaled the shopping guide next to him to get the watch box. Chu Ling just nodded, opened the watch box, took out the watch, and put it on his wrist without hesitation. The 18K rose gold case reveals a unique royal aura, and the crocodile leather strap has a unique pattern, which looks high-end and mysterious. He turned it upside down for a week and commented lightly, "Well, it's okay." Chapter 21 Lost. Not bad? The people watching around felt as if they were slapped hard on the face, and it hurt a lot. Especially Fang Jun and Lin Jing. They felt as if they were being pressed to the ground and rubbed hard. It hurt so much. They just said that they couldn't afford a mid-range watch worth 70,000 or 80,000 yuan. Isn't this the most ridiculous thing in the world? People really look down on it and think it's too cheap. This is the kind of watch that the richest people would choose. It's amazing. The most complicated watches, only 2 of which are produced each year, were actually able to be ordered. Chu Ling's face has been deeply imprinted in everyone's mind. The shopping guide had already taken the crystal watch box back and placed it respectfully on the counter in front of Chu Ling. The manager looked at the luxurious crystal watch box and introduced it briefly. "This is a watch box specially designed for us by Swarovski's top designer at Patek Philippe. The friendly price is 200,000 renminbi. Only our top customers can have it. This crystal watch box is not sold individually, but is only given as a gift by the store to top customers. It's a gift worth 200,000. and it's a free gift. TSK, TSK, TSK. Everyone who listened felt their teeth aching. This gift is too luxurious, isn't it? Fong Jun was so frightened that his legs went limp. The watch box, given by others as a gift, is more expensive than the famous watch he bought with great effort. He even compares his wealth with others and despises them for pretending to be cool. The more Fong Jun thought about it, the more ashamed he felt, and he almost fainted. Chu Ling completely ignored the people around him. He walked straight to the high-end watch counter, pointed at a 700,000 yuan women's diamond watch, and said, "Please pack this watch for me. I want to give it to this lady." The direction of the finger was exactly where Lin Wanner was. Everyone present looked at Lin Wanner with envy. This beautiful girl is so lucky, isn't she? Her boyfriend is not only rich and handsome, but also treats her so well. I can spend $700,000 on a diamond watch. How lucky I am. Miss, can I help you try it on? The shopping guide took out a diamond watch and walked in front of Lin Wanner. The watch was taken out of the counter so that people around could see the style of the watch more clearly. The pink mother-of-pearl dial is extremely beautiful. The tender pink color alone has attracted the attention and love of all women. Not to mention, there are 2 circles of diamonds around the dial, a total of 160 diamonds. No woman can resist such a shiny and beautiful watch. Lin Wanner was excited and shy. She bit her pink lips gently, stretched out her arms, and said softly, "Thank you for your help." Her voice is soft and tender, indescribably charming and attractive. All the men present roared in their hearts. He is indeed a top rich man. The girl next to him is not only extremely beautiful, but also has an irresistible voice. Just this simple sentence just now made their bones fall apart. Lin Wanner's wrist is extremely slender, and her skin is fair and tender. After putting on the watch, she is even more beautiful than the model in the advertisement. The fair skin and the sparkling watch set off each other, making Lin Wanner's whole temperament different. The shopping guide exclaimed sincerely, "Miss, you and this watch are a perfect match. It's so beautiful." Lin Wanner felt a pang of pain in her heart. How could this not match? That's 700,000 renminbi. If I were given 700,000 renminbi and carried it on the street, would anyone still say that they were worthy of me? Although Lin Wanner also liked this watch, reason told her that she should not accept it. With such a valuable gift, she couldn't owe Chu Ling anymore. Thinking of this, Lin Wanner took a deep breath and resolutely wanted to take off the diamond watch. "Why are you taking off your watch? Doesn't it look good wearing it?" Chu Ling walked over at this time and stopped Lin Wanner's actions. He pulled up Lin Wanner's arm and looked at it, then nodded with a smile. "Not bad, pretty much what I imagined, this is it." After saying that, Chu Ling directly handed a bank card to the shopping guide and paid by swiping the card. The shopping guide took the card respectfully, and Lin Jing followed the guide's movements closely, watching her swipe the card and enter the amount. Da-da-da! The electronic receipt was printed out, and Lin Jing was completely desperate. Lin Wanner is really lucky. The man she found is so strong. You are so eager to show off to others, but what is the result? His face is about to break from being slapped. She gave so much to Fong Jun, but he didn't even give her a bag. Lin Wanner just came along to pick up a watch, and she received a diamond watch worth more than 700,000. Lin Jing's eyes turned red, and there was only endless shame in her heart. $700,000, triggering the goddess's rebate skill, and obtained a triple rebate of 2.1 million. Chu Ling checked the triple rebate with satisfaction. He easily earned more than 1 million. It felt really good. "Let's go." Chu Ling took back the bank card and waved to Lin Wanner. Everyone watched them leave. Suddenly, Lin Jing pointed at the warranty card on the table and exclaimed, "Wait a minute. You forgot to bring your stuff." Fong Jun also stood up at this time, looking eagerly at the 2 people who were about to leave. Chu Ling turned around calmly and said, "Don't want it anymore. Just throw it away." "Throw away? But if your watch breaks down and needs repairing, you'll need a warranty card." Lin Jing was a little confused, and her voice became lower and lower. "Is this the top rich person? He is so willful." Chu Ling didn't even turn his head this time, but his voice came through so that everyone present could hear it clearly. "If it's broken, just replace it with another one. It's too troublesome to repair it." Everyone felt that their nerves had become numb. Then they all looked at Fong Jun and Lin Jing. "Are you fucking crazy? Such a person? Could he drive a Wuling Hongguang?" Chapter 22, Goddess Rebate. Chu Ling took Lin Wanner out of the Patek Philippe store, leaving the people behind them staring at them as they left. Such a wealthy man was beyond their imagination, but they missed out on him. Everyone was so upset that they were speechless. Lin Wanner felt a sense of pride. She just couldn't stand the way they were sneering and mocking towards Brother Ling just now. It was simply disgusting. This is really cool. Chu Ling looked at Lin Wanner's happy expression and just smiled. Since you are in such a good mood, I will take you to buy some things. Lin Wanner was not as excited as imagined. Instead, her beautiful eyes widened and she looked at Chu Ling with disbelief. It seems to be saying, still buying? Chu Ling looked at his expression and said in his heart, Girl, you are not yet ready to be a tool. After all, the more you buy, the more rebates I give you. Speaking of shopping, Lin Wanner thought of the huge watch on her wrist, which cost 700,000. More than 700,000 yuan. What does that mean? It could buy a small house in Jinling. Now, she has the equivalent of a tiny house on her wrist. Chu Ling didn't notice Lin Wanner's silence at all. He scanned the international brands and said calmly, Since we're going to buy, let's start with Chanel. After saying that, he pulled Lin Wanner into the Chanel store without further ado. Now that they were in the store, Lin Wanner felt embarrassed to not look at anything, so she casually flipped through a few sets of clothes. It's really Chanel. The French suit is not only beautiful, but also very affordable. A small shirt to wear underneath costs more than 20,000 yuan. I can't stand it anymore, pass. Unexpectedly, Chu Ling picked up the shirt from behind and took a look at it. He even measured it on Lin Wanner's body and said, Okay, this one in her size looks quite elegant. The shopping guide at the side naturally took Lin Wanner's size with great pleasure, and even considerately matched a classic Chanel suit for Lin Wanner. Lin Wanner really likes Chanel small suits. They look very high-end. But when I saw the price of nearly 50,000, I suddenly didn't want to talk. This is indeed very elegant when worn. It's all because of money. Unfortunately, Chu Ling didn't give Lin Wanner any chance to complain and directly pushed her and the clothes into the fitting room. Try it quickly. There are many stores waiting for you to visit later, Chu Ling said directly. The salesgirl next to her looked at Lin Wanner with such jealousy that her heart was bleeding. Good men are always other people's boyfriends. It's so hard to go shopping with my boyfriend. This is the first time I've seen a girl being urged to go shopping. What a wonderful man. However, the salesgirl also knew very well that the bigger reason why the man was so nice was because he was rich. Rich customers are their gods, so the salesgirl was even more respectful towards Chu Ling and Lin Wanner. Lin Wanner is beautiful and has a good figure. When she wears clothes, it seems like they were designed specifically for her, which elevates her overall temperament to a higher level. Please pack it up for me. Chu Ling waved his hand and made the decision. When checking out, Chu Ling saw the perfume and bought a few bottles, which made Lin Wanner's eyes widen. Buying several bottles of something that costs thousands of dollars a bottle is too extravagant. Brother Ling, I don't need that much. Lin Wanner wanted to remind Chu Ling in a more tactful way. Unexpectedly, Chu Ling didn't care at all. He just looked in her eyes and said with a smile, Use it slowly. If it doesn't work, use it as an air purifier. The effect should be good. Air purifier? Not only Lin Wanner, but also the professional salesgirls who received high-end customers every day began to force a smile. Is it so exciting? We don't want to understand the world of rich people anymore. It's so exciting. Sir, your total purchase this time is 285,600. Do you want to pay by credit card? Chu Ling directly handed over the bank card and soon received a prompt from the system. The host was detected to have successfully spent 285,600 US dollars, triggering the goddess rebate skill, triggering double rebate, rebate 571,200 US dollars. Sir, your spending amount is enough to make you a member. I will apply for a membership card for you. The shopping guide looked at Chu Ling with burning eyes. Chu Ling said, Oh, and nudged Lin Wanner beside him, saying, Go get a membership card. You can earn points when you come to the store in the future. That's good. The salesgirls felt a pain in their hearts. It turned out to be someone else's boyfriend. His words made everyone even more jealous of Lin Wanner. They were thinking about their girlfriend for all the good things. Did this girl save the galaxy? Then, Lin Wanner was taken by Chu Ling to the LV store. The clerk's eyes lit up immediately when he saw the two of them, holding large and small bags of things. He has spent so much you can tell at first glance that he's a big customer. The salesgirl rushed forward, helped the two carry their things, and welcomed them into the store. Chu Ling picked out some clothes and bags and spent more than 100,000 yuan, $186,800, triggering the goddess rebate skill, triggering triple rebate, rebate $560,400. The two of them were really shopping around, and they had spent almost $1 million after just a few stores. Chu Ling checked the system message and found that the rebate had reached more than $2 million. It was really a good business with guaranteed profits. When passers-by saw Lin Wanner carrying large and small bags, their eyes were filled with shock and envy. This girl looks so rich. Look, all the clothes she wears are international brands. It's okay that she's pretty, but her boyfriend is so handsome. It's really infuriating. Does she look rich? She is really rich. Did you see the famous watch on her wrist? It's a Patek Philippe diamond watch for women, worth hundreds of thousands. Chu Ling didn't care about the comments of passers-by. He looked at the luxury stores a little further away and said, Wanner, do you have anything else to buy? Look over there, there are still quite a few stores. Lin Wanner's face, which was as beautiful as a flower, looked like she was about to cry. She said with some difficulty, Brother Ling, you are my biological brother, okay? Look, we have bought so much now, cosmetics, clothes, bags, everything. Look at the way they look at me. If they don't know, they would think I am your lover and you are supporting me. I won't buy it, I really won't buy it. Even if you were a lover, you can't spend so much money, right? I give up, okay? Chu Ling looked at Lin Wanner helplessly. His eyes were somewhat resentful, and he thought to himself, how come you don't have the awareness of being a tool at all? I can give you a rebate if I spend money on you. You won't spend money even if I ask you to, and you're useless even if I give you opportunities. Chu Ling said while shaking his head. This beautiful girl has poor spending power. Buy whatever you like, and take back whatever you don't like. Maybe you'll like it after just one look. Lin Wanner. I'm fine with spending my own money, but I get nervous when I spend other people's money. It would be fine if it was just a simple expense, but I'm not mentally prepared to spend so much money. Chu Ling suddenly raised his hand, pointed at the Armani store in front of him, and said, Since you don't need anything, let's go in and buy a bag. If there is an opportunity, you should get rebates. If there is no opportunity, you should create opportunities and also get rebates. Size is a consumption, isn't it? No, I think that's enough. Lin Wanner refused to go in. For the first time in her life, she felt afraid of shopping. Who can stand buying things like this? Chu Ling was amused by Lin Wanner's desperate resistance and came over to pull her up in a bad mood. The Armani shopping guide had been looking at the clothes for a long time. At this time, she hurried over and said to Lin Wanner, Miss, you can actually come into our store and take a look. The clothes in our store are of good quality in terms of material and style. They are very suitable for your noble temperament. Lin Wanner. She herself couldn't remember how many times today she was speechless. Do I have a noble temperament? What I am showing now is the temperament of a poor person, okay? However, it was just a moment of distraction for Lin Wanner. By the time she reacted, she had already been pulled into the store by Chu Ling. I have to say, when Chu Ling held Lin Wanner's hand, it felt extremely soft, as if it had no bones, so smooth, and it was just too comfortable. Sir, you are so good to your girlfriend. We have been working as shopping guides for so long, but this is the first time we have met a boyfriend like you. The shopping guide girl was generous in praising Chu Ling. This was not flattery, but Chu Ling really did a great job. The girlfriend said she didn't want it, but the boyfriend still insisted on giving it to her. The boyfriend power is really maxed out, okay. So cool. Of course, although the two are not boyfriend and girlfriend, in the eyes of the shopping guide they are. Otherwise, why would you buy things like this? As for Lin Wanner, when she heard the shopping guide calling her boyfriend over and over again, her face couldn't help but blush and the corners of her mouth unconsciously raised. Chu Ling didn't say anything. When he was about to pay, he saw jewelry on the counter and took a look. Hey, this style looks pretty good. When Lin Wanner heard Chu Ling's words, she ran out of the store in a hurry like a frightened little rabbit. This man bought it again. Are you not satisfied if I am not knocked out? Chu Ling and a group of shopping guides laughed out loud when they saw Lin Wanner's appearance. This girl is so cute, isn't she? Chu Ling shook his head silently, pointed at one of the bracelets and said, Wrap this one for me too. Make it look nice. I'll give it to someone else as a gift. He accepted a gift from his desk mate Chu Shaing, but never expressed any reaction. I just happened to see a suitable gift, so I should give something in return. However, Chu Ling understood that there was no rebate this time, probably because it had not been given out yet. After a while, Chu Ling came out and found Lin Wanner. Lin Wanner said to him righteously, Master Chu Ling, I really give in. Okay, how about we go out for dinner? I'll treat you, okay? I really can't go shopping anymore. If she buys any more, Chu Ling will turn her shopping hobby into a nightmare, okay? Chu Ling nodded. After walking around for so long, he was indeed a little hungry. Moreover, this tool seems a little uncooperative, so I have to brainwash her myself. We should be more open-minded in our consumption concepts so that we can have a broader vision. I'll take you to a restaurant outside to eat. There are too many people in Wanda Plaza, and it's not comfortable to eat. Chu Ling looked at the increasing number of customers and said, "As for you wanting to treat me, let's wait until later." Ah, this? Lin Wanner was about to say something, but the next moment Chu Ling stared at her. "Why, do you want to continue shopping?" "No, no, no." Wanner immediately shook her hands, and then remained silent, looking like she was ready to be slaughtered. Two people carried large and small bags of things, walked out of Wanda Plaza, and walked towards the car. Chu Ling had just parked his car in the ground parking lot. Not long after he walked out of the side door, he saw the eye-catching shape of the Bugatti Veyron. The two walked over and were about to get into the car when two figures in the distance saw them. Chapter 23, Arrogant. It was Fong Jun and Lin Jing. Looking at the large and small bags that Chu Ling and the others were carrying, especially the paper bags with the logos of various international luxury brands on them, both of them's eyes were about to pop out. This Chu Ling is so rich. I just brought a girl here shopping, and she bought so many things. Looking at the number of these large and small packages, it would take at least 800,000 to get them all. Moreover, Chu Ling and Lin Wanner did not seem to be cautious at all and just casually threw those big brand products into the car. It's completely different from their poor appearance that they want to hold you in their hands and talk about you all the time. This is how truly rich people behave. Fong Jun felt his face burning. The watch box that someone threw away was more expensive than his watch. This slap hurt so much. No wonder Chu Ling didn't react at all when I mentioned Wuling Hongguang before. My level is too low, and if others say a few more words, it will lower my level. His car is actually a Bugatti Veyron. This car must be worth at least 50 or 60 million, right? Lin Jing covered her mouth and watched in horror as the two got into the car. She understood in her heart that the Wuling Hongguang might have been rented by Chu Ling, who deliberately blocked them. Compared with other people's super sports cars, Fong Jun's Porsche Panamera becomes a small gadget like an electric car and is not worth mentioning at all. Especially when they saw the license plate number of Jean A99999 clearly. Their legs and feet went weak at the same time, and they almost fell to the ground. Their hearts were beating fast, and they watched in horror as the Bugatti Veyron drove out of their sight. This license plate number belongs to the Emperor. How awesome of a person must he be? Just now, they were actually showing off in front of such a rich man. Fong Jun and Lin Jing looked at each other, and when they thought of what they had said and done before, their faces turned paler than paper. The two of them are just clowns. They pretend to be rich and act like big shots in front of important people. Fong Jun swallowed subconsciously, and a thin layer of sweat appeared on his forehead. Having offended such a big shot, will he still be able to do business in the future? If today's events were to get out, the two of them would probably become like rats crossing the street in Jinling, and everyone would shout and beat them. The other side. Is there anything you want to eat? While driving, Chu Ling turned his head to ask Lin Wanner for her opinion. Lin Wanner looked at Chu Ling and said, "Brother Ling, I can eat anything. I'm not picky at all." Chu Ling noted that since there was no particular restaurant he wanted to eat at, he might as well go to a luxurious restaurant. After all, he still had the goddess rebate skill. I casually flipped through my phone and found that the Ziyun Pavilion had the highest star ranking. Ziyun Pavilion has been famous in Jinling for a long time. It is the only restaurant in Jinling rated 3 stars by Michelin. It is definitely a golden signboard in Jinling's catering industry. This kind of place is a good choice to invite beautiful women to dinner. How about we go to Ziyun Pavilion? Chu Ling asked. Okay, I'll listen to you, Brother Ling. Lin Wanner turned her head to the window, not wanting Chu Ling to notice her blushing cheeks. Chu Ling was driving quietly when he suddenly heard Lin Wanner's cell phone ringing, and the sound was particularly frequent. He couldn't help but frown and asked, "What's wrong, Wanner? Is there anything wrong with you?" The phone kept ringing, and Lin Wanner was busy processing messages, looking very busy. Lin Wanner shook her head slightly and handed the phone towards Chu Ling so that he could see the content of the message clearly. "It's really not a big deal. It's just that my fans are urging me to start the show. In the past, in order to make up the live broadcast time, Lin Wanner would start broadcasting at this time and then broadcast for a while in the evening. In this way, after a month, it should be no problem to accumulate enough hours to get the basic salary." Yesterday, Lin Wanner's live broadcast room became very popular because of the gifts given by Chu Ling. Many fans who care about her came to remind her to start the broadcast early and try to retain those new fans. Her income will also increase in the future. Chu Ling took a casual glance and saw that Lin Warner's phone was full of messages from fans. Warner, if you don't start broadcasting, you'll have to live a life where you can't afford Lao Ganma again. Hurry up and do it. Is it because there are too many new fans? Warner is a little nervous. Warner, don't worry, we will all support you. Wait for the show to start. Wait for the show to start. Chu Ling looked at Lin Warner, who was in a dilemma, and gave her an idea. Since they are urging you to start live streaming, then just start live streaming. But it's not convenient to play games outdoors, so you can just change it to live streaming of visiting stores. Visiting a Michelin 3-star restaurant is a pretty good theme, right? Is it really possible? Lin Warner was very excited. She also hoped to stabilize the situation with the help of the traffic that Chu Ling brought her yesterday. As the saying goes, a soldier who doesn't want to be a general is not a good soldier. Lin Warner also hopes that she can become a popular anchor and make a name for herself through her personal strength. Now that Chu Ling supports her so much, Lin Warner directly opened the live broadcast software on her mobile phone. As soon as she entered the live broadcast room, she found that there were already thousands of fans waiting in the room. After seeing her face show up, they frantically swiped the barrage of comments, all asking where Lin Warner had gone and why the show was only starting now. Lin Warner looked at the public screen that was scrolling by quickly and smiled brightly at the camera. Hello, everyone. I didn't expect that you were all waiting for me. Warner thanks everyone for their kindness. Even though Chu Ling was driving very steadily, the screen still seemed to be shaking slightly. A large number of inquiries instantly appeared on the public screen. Warner, aren't you going to play games today? Your background looks a bit unfamiliar. You don't look like you're in a room? Are you outside? Warner didn't lie. She honestly said in front of the camera that she and Ling Tian were hanging out today, so she wouldn't play games today. Do you want to take a look at the dining environment and dishes of a Michelin 3-star restaurant? Brother Ling and I are going to check out the restaurant. As soon as the fans heard Ling Tian's name, they immediately started wailing in the live broadcast room. I never thought that the innocent female anchor Warner would also fall into the arms of a rich man. This really breaks my heart. Give me back my love. It turns out that beauties are only worthy of being owned by rich people. Poor losers like us can only watch the live broadcast here. Master Ling Tian, are you the rich guy who spent tens of thousands yesterday? Please show your face so we can meet him. Wana looked at their words and just smiled. Even if you explain some things, those people still won't believe it and will think you are trying to cover up something. The best solution is to ignore them. Lin Wana noticed that many fans were clamoring to see Ling Tian's true face. So she asked Chu Ling, Brother Ling, do you mind showing your face? It doesn't matter, Chu Ling said lightly. Lin Wana looked at the people frantically begging to show their faces on the public screen and said with a smile, Okay, I'll show it to you and satisfy your curiosity. After saying that, Lin Wana turned the camera of her mobile phone towards Chu Ling. Chu Ling's profile as he drove seriously came into everyone's sight. For several seconds, the live broadcast room seemed to be stuck and no one spoke at all. Only the notification that XXX has entered the live broadcast room is flashing. If it weren't for this reminder, Lin Warner would really suspect that her phone was stuck. After about 10 seconds, the public screen in the entire live broadcast room exploded. The speed is so fast that it is almost impossible to see the messages they send. Oh my God, what kind of divine appearance is this? Ling Tian is so handsome. Is Ling Tian really that good looking? I thought those who gave gifts during live broadcasts were all ugly. It seems that I am just too poor. What did I just see? Did you see that? Holy crap, Ling Tian is actually driving a Bugatti, the most powerful supercar on Earth. How awesome. Everyone was stunned by Chu Ling's handsome profile and were immediately diverted by the audience in the live broadcast room and started paying attention to his luxury car. When they figured out what Bugatti Veyron was, they collectively wailed again. No wonder he can give hundreds of thousands of dollars in tips. His car would cost 50 or 60 million to buy. He is really rich. Mr. Ling Tian's economic power is so terrifying. I am convinced 66,666. At this time, Lin Warner saw a fan asking a question below, asking her where she planned to go for today's store visit. We plan to go to Ziyun Pavilion in Jinling today. It is the only Michelin 3-star restaurant here. Lin Warner interacted with fans with a smile. Ziyun Pavilion? It turned out that many fans had heard of the name of Ziyun Pavilion and typed out the information they knew on the public screen. Ziyun Pavilion is a famous restaurant in Jinling. It is the leader among them. Warner, you really should go and give it a try. Otherwise, you are unworthy of being a Jinling person. I found it online, and it has a very high rating. But does this kind of restaurant allow live streaming? Can someone help me out? That's a long-established Michelin 3-star restaurant. The first batch of names was selected very strictly. It's definitely the most worthy of the name. I'm so jealous. I can only feast my eyes on it. The car drove forward for a short distance, and Lin Wana suddenly saw a very tall archway on the side of the road not far away, with the words Ziyun Pavilion written on it. The color of the archway is very bright, as if it had just been painted. Chu Ling had already driven into the parking lot of Ziyun Pavilion at this time. Lin Warner even took a photo for the fans in the live broadcast room. The parking lot was filled with luxury cars. The fans were amazed, saying that it was worthy of being a Michelin 3-star restaurant, as the patrons who came to eat there were either wealthy or noble. Ziyun Pavilion is located near the business district. It is an independent 3-story building with ancient style and extremely elegant decoration. There were several receptionists wearing red cheongsams standing at the door. Each of them was sweet and lovely, with pleasant voices that made people feel happy both physically and mentally. As soon as you enter the door, you will see thick carpet on the floor. It feels soft when you step on it, and you feel like you are walking on clouds. Gentlemen, which floor do you want to dine on? We have open tables on the first floor and private rooms on the second floor and above. The receptionist's voice was like a gurgling stream, fluently introducing the situation of Ziyun Pavilion. At the end, she did not forget to add, I also want to tell you in advance that our private room requires a minimum consumption of more than 10,000 US dollars. If the consumption is less than that, you will need to pay a private room fee of 1,000 US dollars. When the fans in the live broadcast room heard this, they were stunned. No way. Isn't it just a private room? And the minimum consumption is 10,000 yuan? There are only 2 hosts there, so a meal of 1 or 2,000 yuan is the most they can spend, right? 10,000 yuan. Isn't this blatant robbery? After hearing about the scale of consumption, even Lin Warner became a little hesitant. This meal is too expensive. Although she knows that Chu Ling is rich, she is not willing to spend his money like this. The box fee of 1,000 yuan is enough for her living expenses for half a month. Before Lin Warner could persuade him, she heard Chu Ling say to the receptionist, "Give me a quieter room." The receptionist immediately led the 2 of them up to the second floor and into the first private room on the left. As soon as you enter the door, you will see a wooden screen. The whole room is decorated in Chinese style and looks very textured. Behind the screen is a wooden round table. The area does not look large, but the tabletop is extremely clean, with a unique wooden luster. After the 2 of them sat down, the waiter immediately handed over the menu and leaned over to ask, "What do you 2 want to eat?" That humble attitude is absolutely amazing. Fans in the live broadcast room were all praising the waiter's service level. "Come and order what you want to eat." Chu Ling was very gentlemanly and handed the menu to Lin Warner first. Lin Warner took a look at it, and showed it to all the viewers through the mobile phone in her hand. The prices of the dishes above almost all start from 4 figures, and there are many dishes that cost 5 figures. After Lin Warner showed it to her fans, she quickly pushed it in front of Chu Ling and said, "Brother Ling, you should order some. I'll eat whatever you order." Chu Ling had no choice but to randomly order a few items on the menu. After the waiter took note of them, he left the room. It didn't take long for the waiter to bring over an exquisite little plate. Lin Wana took a look, and it seemed to be a fruit plate. The grapes inside looked crystal clear and very tempting. Lin Wana simply pinched one in her hand and took a light bite. The grapes seemed to have no skin and were very easy to bite into, with the juice instantly exploding in her mouth. Immediately afterwards, your mouth is filled with the unique aroma of grapes. Lin Wana ate a grape in 2 bites. The taste completely satisfied her taste buds, and she couldn't help but squint her eyes. As she sighed, she picked up another one and put it into her mouth. Feeling the wonderful taste of the juice bursting instantly, she couldn't help but say to Chu Ling, "Brother Ling, what kind of grapes are these? They are so delicious, better than any I've ever eaten before." After saying that, she picked up one and handed it to Chu Ling, as if she was worried that Chu Ling wouldn't believe it. Chu Ling smiled faintly and explained, "These are ruby Roman grapes. The price is about 6,400 US dollars per bunch, which is about 40,000 yuan in RMB. They are produced in Japan. The sugar content and weight of each grape sold must be around 18% and 20 grams respectively. Not only does it have to be sweet, but each grape must also be large enough. A grape like this should cost about $1,000. Chu Ling put the grape into his mouth and nodded. Warner almost choked. She just ate $1,000 in just a few bites? The fans in the live broadcast room exploded on the spot. Chapter 24, Am I Happy? $1,000 for a grape? Forgive my humbleness, I don't deserve it. Look at what the above person said. Who are you looking down on? Let's be humble together online, brother. As expected of Master Ling Tian, the food he eats is astronomically expensive. I can't afford it. Chu Ling didn't know the fans' reactions in the live broadcast room. He turned his head and smiled at Lin Warner, saying, But in comparison, this grape is much cheaper than the tea next to you. It contains top-quality pu'er tea, and the market price of 1 ounce of it is at least tens of thousands. Lin Warner was stunned for a moment, not knowing whether she should swallow the tea she had just drunk. Isn't this too expensive? How many tens of thousands of dollars per tale? The waiter came in at this time, holding 2 plates in his hands. Hawthorne cherry foie gras. This is kaiseki beef cubes. Enjoy it, both of you. Lin Warner picked up a piece of beef and tasted it. The beef was extremely tender, with a little sweetness in the taste, which brought the freshness and fragrance of the beef to the extreme. Japanese-style shrimp balls with willow mustard sauce. As soon as this dish came in, Lin Warner was shocked. A half-man-high tree shape is placed on a tray, with several small bamboo baskets hanging inside, filled with wasabi shrimp balls. The most amazing thing is that they are wrapped in layers of translucent sugar threads, which makes them look fairy-like and extremely romantic. Wana spent the entire meal in shock and confusion. This was the first time in her life that she had experienced such food. It was simply amazing. After finishing his meal, Chu Ling went downstairs to pay the bill. The cashier said very respectfully, Hello, sir. Your total spending today is $70,000. Chu Ling directly handed over the bank card and soon received a prompt from the system. The host has successfully spent $70,000, triggering the goddess rebate skill, triggering triple rebate $210,000. Lin Warner also came downstairs at this time. Perhaps because she was too shocked or the food was too delicious, she lost her focus and missed the last step. Fortunately, it wasn't very high, and I just hit my knee a little, causing it to turn slightly red. Are you okay? Why are you so careless? Chu Ling hurried over and helped Lin Warner up. Lin Warner felt a little embarrassed and quickly waved her hands and said, Brother Ling, it's okay. I was just a little distracted and didn't pay attention to my feet. Chu Ling looked at Lin Warner helplessly, grabbed her hand, and carefully helped her walk out of the store. Seeing her hand being grabbed, Lin Warner's pretty face turned red. Lin Warner and Chu Ling were so close that she could smell the faint scent of men's perfume on him. Her heart was completely in turmoil. Chu Ling helped her walk to the car without Lin Warner noticing. Chu Ling looked at Lin Warner, who was still in a daze, thinking that she was still feeling a little uncomfortable, so he opened the car door and carried Lin Warner into the car. Lin Warner didn't react until her body was suspended in the air and let out a moan. She subconsciously stretched out her little hands and hugged Chu Ling's neck tightly. The next second, Lin Warner let go of her hand. Oh my God, what have I done? Not only did she ask Chu Ling to carry her into the car, she also took the initiative to climb onto his neck. Warner's face turned red so much that it almost bled, and an uproar continued to rise. Chu Ling didn't think much about it. After getting in the car, he went over to help Lin Warner fasten her seatbelt. In the narrow space of the car, the two bodies were pressed together, and the smell of their bodies blended together, giving off a heartwarming smell. Lin Warner blinked nervously and secretly looked at Chu Ling's face. While Lin Warner was blushing, Chu Ling drove her back to school. As soon as the Bugatti Veyron entered the campus, it attracted the attention of many students. Those students had never seen such a high-end car before, so they all stopped and stood not far away, taking out their cell phones. Their intentions are very clear. As long as the car owner gets out of the car, they can take a few photos secretly and show them off on their circle of friends. After arriving, Lin Warner also got out of the car and looked at Chu Ling. Brother Ling, go back slowly. When they saw the familiar figure of the school beauty coming out of the luxury car, all the boys' hearts were shattered. No, this is not what they want to see. Why was it Lin Warner who came down? This is too much. My goddess is already someone else's. It hurts so much just thinking about it. In particular, a sharp-eyed boy happened to notice that Warner's knees were red. He even walked with a slight limp. The boy's powerful imagination immediately came into play. Scenes that were too unbearable to watch played out in their minds. In the boys' hearts, besides heartache and jealousy, there was also a deep sense of contempt. This Chu Ling really has no sympathy for women. He is so rude. Don't you know that girls are made of water, and you should treat them gently? Treating a goddess so rudely is simply too much. Lin Wanner had no idea that they needed scouring powder. She said goodbye to Chu Ling with a blushing face and went straight back to the dormitory. The roommates happened to be there, and when they saw Wanner coming back with a lot of bags, they all gathered around. "You're back? Wow, you bought so many good things." When my roommates saw those big brand bags, their eyes lit up. I wish I could be the first person to appreciate it. As everyone gathered around to watch, a few light bills slipped out of the bag. A girl quickly picked it up and was about to return it to Lin Wanner, but she was stunned on the spot. What did she see? Just now, she took a casual glance and saw the consumption amount of hundreds of thousands. There were so many zeros that she almost couldn't count them. "Ah, Wanner, your watch is so beautiful." The other roommate didn't know what was going on. She came over and took a photo, thinking of searching the brand of the watch and buying one for herself. But the search results made her eyes widen. Patek Philippe Diamond Women's Watch, 700,000. My God, this is almost the price of half a house. All the roommates were stunned and stared at Lin Wanner. They have been roommates for more than a year and have some understanding of each other's family conditions. Lin Wanner is usually very frugal, so it is impossible for her to buy so many big brands by herself. The roommates exchanged glances and then thought about the fact that Lin Wanner had spent a long time dressing up today, and they immediately understood. Lin Wanner, this is love. Not only that, she also found a boyfriend who is either rich or noble and is extremely generous to her. This bad girl. Didn't she tell them about her relationship? I must be going out on a date today. The roommates immediately surrounded Lin Wanner and said, "Wanner, when will you bring your boyfriend to us?" "Yeah, or you can ask your boyfriend if there are any high-quality boys around him and introduce them to us." Jealousy has made me unrecognizable. Wanner's boyfriend is too good, isn't he? Please introduce one to us quickly to comfort my restless heart. You eat meat, but you can't forget us, at least give us some soup. Lin Wanna listened to her roommates calling her boyfriend, one after another, but she didn't say anything to refute him. Instead, she felt very happy and a smile appeared on the corner of her mouth unconsciously. "Little girl, what are you laughing about? Did you hear us talking? Aho mat penché de face. Did I steal some joy?" All roommates. You didn't? Your mouth is almost grinning to your ears. Chapter 25 Complete Sign-In. After Chu Ling sent Lin Wanner back, he prepared to drive back to rest. Unexpectedly, as soon as I got on the road, my cell phone suddenly rang. Chu Ling picked up the phone and took a look, only to find that it was a call from his cousin Chu Mingming. "Hey, what's wrong, Mingming?" Chu Ling asked in a gentle tone. Chu Mingming, on the other end of the phone, was very happy to hear her cousin's voice. Her excitement could be felt in her tone. "Cousin, are you busy recently? I just finished my graduation ceremony, and my classmates just agreed to go to Jinling to play. I'll come to see you when I get back." Chu Mingming was very happy. She couldn't help but smile at the thought of seeing her cousin whom she hadn't seen for a long time. "Okay, I'll take you out to play then," Chu Ling said. Chu Mingming chattered a lot of things like a happy little squirrel. "Cousin, just wait for my arrival in Jinling. I will treat you to a meal then." "Treat me to dinner?" Chu Ling couldn't help but laugh. "Forget it. You're using Uncle's money, so I'll treat you. After all, he is a grown man. How can he let a little girl treat him to a meal?" Chu Mingming snorted and said angrily, "Cousin, don't look down on me. I went to work after the college entrance examination and saved a lot of money." Chu Ling didn't expect this and said, "Tell me, what kind of job do you do?" Chu Mingming proudly told Chu Ling about her work experience, where she experienced internship in a Fortune 500 company. "Huh? Fortune 500? Sounds pretty impressive." Chu Ling was obviously stunned for a moment. Is this little girl so impressive now? You just graduated from high school, and you're already working in a Fortune 500 company to experience life? Chu Mingming seemed to have guessed Chu Ling's reaction a long time ago, and laughed loudly on the other end of the phone. "Ha, cousin, you are so silly. I was talking about McDonald's. I work part-time as a waiter in McDonald's, and this is hard-earned money." "You naughty girl. You even dare to tease your cousin, right? Humph. When you come to Jinling, I'll show you how I'll deal with you." Chu Ling raised a smile at the corner of his mouth, but deliberately pretended to have a vicious tone. Chu Mingming was so scared that she took it seriously and begged for mercy repeatedly on the phone before Chu Ling let her go. Tell me when you arrive in Jinling, and I will pick you up. Chu Lang instu Chu Mingming. After all, she's a girl who has just become an adult, and safety comes first. Chu Mingming felt her cousin's concern, and she smiled sweetly. Okay, I get it. After chatting for a few more minutes, the two hung up the phone, putting the phone casually on the passenger seat. Chu Ling's thoughts flew far away, and he directly recalled his childhood. Chu Mingming is his cousin. He remembered that he had just entered junior high school when his family suddenly fell into poverty. It was also from that time that his father's legs began to become lame. As the days went by, my father's temper became worse and worse, and even his mental state seemed to be deteriorating. He spent the whole day drinking and lived a dark life. His mother felt that living like this was not a good idea, so she took him and his father back to their hometown, hoping that the quiet life in the countryside would allow his father to find himself again and cheer up again. But those days were very happy for Chu Ling. Carefree, just going out and playing all day. At that time, Chu Mingming followed him around every day, like a little follower, calling him brother one after another with those childish voices. When Chu Ling thinks about it now, it's as if those voices are surrounding his ears. At that time in the countryside, all the little boys played together. I was the only one taking care of a baby sister, and I was laughed at by my friends. The more Chu Ling thought about it, the more interesting it became, and the curve of his mouth became wider and wider. It's been more than a year since we last met, right? I don't know how this girl is doing now. Oh, don't think too much about it. Anyway, this girl will be here in 2 days. Chu Ling chuckled when he thought of this. He stepped hard on the accelerator and drove towards Tianfang Tianlong Bay. They soon arrived home, and at this time, Chu Ling discovered that Lin Wanner had sent him a message asking if he had arrived home safely. Chu Ling replied, "I'm here." After being out for a day, Chu Ling felt a little tired, so he went to take a shower to relax. After he finished taking a shower, he suddenly saw the gift he had bought on the table. It was the bracelet. Chu Ling took out his phone and sent a message to Chu Shaing. "I bought you a gift. When are you free?" After a while, Chu Shaing replied, "I just bought you such a small thing, which is not even enough to pay for the gas money you gave me. Do you still want to reciprocate? I happen to have time tomorrow. How about you come to my house? My parents are not at home. I will show you my skills." Chu Ling made a surprised expression, then typed, "I didn't expect that our school beauty can cook. I remember your original dream didn't seem to be a chef." Chef? Chu Shaobing was drinking tea on the sofa and almost burst out laughing when he saw this. Isn't Chu Ling a little too naughty? My dream is to learn painting and become a freelance painter." Chu Shaobing typed very quickly, which seemed to reveal that she was a little excited at the moment. "What about you, Chu Ling? What's your dream?" Looking at the question sent by Chu Shaobing, a smile appeared on Chu Ling's lips. "My dream? My dream is to be an illustrator." Chu Ling typed a sentence and clicked send. Chu Shaobing stared at the phone screen and was stunned. "Illustrator? I haven't heard that Chu Ling likes painting since then." Puff! Suddenly, Chu Shaobing thought of something and spat out a mouthful of tea. This damn Chu Ling was actually driving in public during a private chat. The car was going so fast that it almost hurt her waist. It's really infuriating. Chu Shaobing directly sent a picture of a ferocious beast. After sending it, Chu Shaobing put his phone aside and went to prepare tomorrow's menu. Nowadays, people pay attention to the combination of meat and vegetables and balanced nutrition. You can just download a nutritious recipe online. Seeing her daughter pondering, Mother Chu came over curiously and saw some dish names written on the paper, most of which were crossed out. It looked like a recipe, but something didn't seem right. "What are you doing, Shaobing? Are you practicing calligraphy?" Chu Shaobing looked up and saw that it was her mother, so she casually said, "I have an appointment with Chu Ling to have dinner at home tomorrow, and I am preparing the menu." "Mom, you have more experience. What dishes do you think I should cook?" Mother Chu looked at her daughter with a dark face, and after a long while she managed to squeeze out a sentence. "Let's put a few dishes aside first. I want to ask you first, can you cook?" Chu Shaobing blinked and said nonchalantly, "Isn't cooking easy? I often watch those cooking videos. Besides, there are so many recipes on the internet. Can't I just download one?" She may not be very innovative, but there's nothing wrong with just following the instructions, right? Mother Chu didn't say anything. She turned around and went back to her room, looking worried. Father Chu was reading a book. He accidentally saw his wife's worried look and asked in surprise, "What's wrong with you? What national affairs are you worried about?" Mother Chu glared at her husband and scolded him. "How can you be a father? You still have the energy to joke with me now." Then, she told him about Chu Xiaobing's plan to cook for Chu Ling. She sighed and said, "What do you think we should do about this? Won't your daughter scare Xiao Chu away if she does this?" It's hard to find a prospective son-in-law with good conditions. As the prospective mother-in-law, Chu's mother is really worried about him. Father Chu came over, patted Mother Chu on the shoulder, and said earnestly, "Children and grandchildren have their own blessings. Why do you care so much? Besides, who is our daughter? She has inherited all our advantages. Maybe she is really a hidden talent." Mother Chu made a bitter face and complained, "You have a hard time cooking instant noodles, and now you want to cook for others. Isn't this ridiculous?" But thinking about it, what my husband said makes sense. Even if a god of cooking were born, he wouldn't be able to teach my daughter, who has never done any housework. In that case, let's take it one step at a time. Mr. and Mrs. Chu turned off the lights and prepared to go to bed. On the other side, Chu Ling looked at the cute pictures on his phone and found that it was time to sign in. "Host, please complete the sign-in." Sign in. Chapter 26. Thin as a cicada's wing. Congratulations to the host for signing in successfully and obtaining 100 physical points, as well as Bajiquan Mastery. Bajiquan? Chu Ling took out his phone and searched for relevant content. In traditional Chinese martial arts, Bajiquan is known to bring peace to the world with Tai Chi in civil arts and stability of the world with Bajiquan in martial arts. This shows the status of Bajiquan in the traditional Chinese martial arts community. Bajiquan is a set of short-range boxing techniques, a martial art style that emphasizes strength, ferocity, and speed. Chu Ling watched some video explanations and found that the moves of Bajiquan are relatively simple, without any frills, and absolutely plain and unpretentious. His martial arts techniques emphasize inch-by-inch interception and hard hitting. People who have mastered the skill can reach the point where they can shake the sky with a shake of their arms and shake the whole country with a stomp of their feet. Of course, it's just momentum. Chu Ling's eyes lit up. This is not bad, it's a good thing. Chu Ling looked at his physical points again and found that they had reached an astonishing 1,100 points. Seeing that it was getting late, Chu Ling thought about what he had to do tomorrow, so he went to bed early. The next morning, Chu Ling went to Chu Xiaobing's house. He went there a little early. Chu Xiaobing seemed to have just gotten up not long ago. She came out wearing a light yellow pajamas and opened the door for Chu Ling. "You get up so early and your life is quite regular." Chu Xiaobing yawned and called Chu Ling in. Only then did Chu Ling see clearly that Chu Xiaobing was wearing a pair of Pikachu pajamas. Chu Xiaobing was also wearing a hat, revealing the shape of 2 ears on the hat, which looked very cute. Especially Pikachu's 2 big eyes, which looked bulging and particularly expressive. Chu Xiaobing saw Chu Ling was looking at her, so she followed his gaze and saw that it was focused on her chest. "What are you looking at?" Chu Xiaobing said coquettishly. Chu Ling finally reacted. He straightened his face and said seriously, "What can I look at? I just want to see if the Pikachu on your pajamas is genuine. The eyes look big and bright, so it must be authentic." Of course, the eyes were bulging. At this time, Chu Ling shook the gifts in his hand and asked, "Where should I put these things?" Chu Xiaobing took it, shook her head and said, "Why are you still so polite? We are all old classmates. Why are you still doing this?" Chu Ling picked out very exquisite fruit baskets, as well as supplements suitable for her parents to drink. It was obvious that she had chosen them with great care. "Oh, by the way, there's this too. It's for you," Chu Ling said, taking out a beautifully packaged box from his pocket. "A gift? What is it?" Chu Xiaobing said as she opened the package and took out the jewelry box. "As soon as I opened it, I saw an exquisite bracelet inside. Wow, this bracelet is so beautiful." Chu Xiaobing picked up the bracelet with a little surprise and couldn't let it go. This bracelet is really beautiful. As Chu Xiaobing was thinking, she looked at Chu Ling. She didn't expect that he had such good taste and was so good at choosing gifts. "This bracelet is so beautiful. It must be expensive, right?" Although Chu Xiaobing liked it very much, she was still a little embarrassed to accept such an expensive gift and asked Chu Ling softly. Chu Ling laughed and said, "Don't worry about the price. Try it on first and see if it looks good." As he spoke, Chu Ling took the bracelet very naturally and put it on Chu Xiaobing's wrist. Chu Xiaobing has very slender wrists, and it looks really good on her. Chu Ling looked at it with satisfaction and sighed, "It seems that I bought it at a good price. Such a beautiful wrist should be suitable for a more expensive bracelet." Detecting that the host has successfully spent $100,000, triggering a tenfold rebate, a rebate of 1 million. "Oh, 10 times rebate? Chu Ling is so angry now. If he had known this earlier, he would have bought it at a more expensive price. You're so annoying. Chu Shaobing saw Chu Ling was joking with her, so she ran back to the house and got the tablet computer and put it in Chu Ling's hand. You play with the tablet for a while, I'll go change my clothes. Chu Ling looked at Chu Xiaobing's tablet, which was filled with small standalone games that girls like to play. He felt bored and thought about finding a movie to watch. Unexpectedly, before I even opened the software, I saw a WeChat message pop up on the tablet. Chu Ling quickly called out to Chu Shaobing. Shaobing, someone is looking for you on WeChat. Should I help you reply? What message did you send? Chu Shaobing asked through the door. Chu Ling took a look and said, I'm not sure. I think he's asking for the item number. I'm wondering why you ordered D this time when you ordered C before. Did you order the wrong one? Chu Shaobing was listening in the room with her ears perked up, and her pretty face suddenly turned red. She hurriedly put on her clothes and ran over to confiscate the tablet. Chu Ling looked at her flushed face and immediately understood. He also teased her. Xiaobing, have you gained weight recently? Chu Xiaobing exploded when she heard this, and she put her hands on her waist and said angrily, Bah, this is called secondary development. Do you understand? He is indeed a straight man and really can't talk. Chu Xiaobing went to the kitchen, washed some fruit, and stuffed it into Chu Ling's hand, and handed him the remote control. You watch TV for a while, I'll go cook. Chu Ling turned on the TV and switched channels out of boredom. Before I found a suitable program, I heard a scream from the kitchen. Chu Ling was startled and quickly jumped up from the sofa and rushed to the kitchen. As soon as he entered the kitchen, Chu Ling saw black smoke coming out of the hot oil in the pot. Chu Shaobing seemed to be preparing to fry something, but she failed to control the oil temperature well, and the hot oil splashed out, scaring her, and she screamed. Chu Shaobing was startled when she saw Chu Ling suddenly come in. She kept pinching her earlobe with her hand and looked at Chu Ling with her big eyes. For a moment, they stared at each other in silence. What's wrong with you? Did you get burned? Chu Ling asked with some concern and walked forward to pull Chu Xiaobing's hand to check it. Chu Xiaobing's pretty face turned red. She gritted her teeth and said, Wait for me, I'll go get something. After saying that, Chu Shaobing went to the storage room. When he came back, he was holding a hood, gloves, and sleeves in his hands. Chu Ling was stunned by what he saw. If he was seeing correctly, why did this kind of hood look so much like the ones used by bank robbers? Looking at the dumbfounded Chu Ling, Chu Shaobing smiled, waved the equipment in his hand, and said, Just get out. Don't look at me like this now. As long as I put on the equipment, I'm still very capable. Capable? How capable? When Chu Ling saw her energy, he felt overwhelmed. Okay, let me do it. He didn't dare to let Chu Shaobing struggle in the kitchen anymore. If things went wrong, he might risk his life to blow up the kitchen. For the sake of his own life, he should show off his skills. Chu Shaobing looked unconvinced and was still trying to put on her sleeves. You must have been busy making money these past few years. Where do you have time to cook? It's said that a gentleman should stay away from the kitchen. Let me do it. I think practice makes perfect. I just need an opportunity to practice. Exercise? Practice makes perfect? Chu Ling directly held Chu Xiaobing's arms with both hands, carried her out, and then closed the kitchen door. Hurry up and wait outside. Be obedient. No. How can I ask you to come over and cook for me? Chu Shaobing stood at the kitchen door, pouting and shouting inside. Chu Ling didn't mean to reply to her at all, but soon, the sound of intensive cutting of vegetables was heard in the kitchen. Da-da-da. Hearing the clattering sound, Chu Shaobing widened his eyes in surprise. No way. Chu Ling actually knows how to cook? Listen to the intensive sound of cutting vegetables. How good must the knife skills be? The sound was so pleasant to hear. Even though he couldn't see it, Chu Shaobing could imagine what the scene was like. It must be just like the food shows on TV, where the complete dish is cut into the desired shape in the shortest possible time. At this time, Chu Ling in the kitchen was processing the raw materials in an orderly manner. He found that Chu Xiaobing's preparation of the ingredients was perfect, and it seemed that he had indeed made careful preparations. Chu Ling's operation was as natural as flowing water. It didn't take long before the dishes were served on the restaurant table. Oh my God, did you do all this? Chu Shaobing could hardly believe his eyes. How long has it taken to finish it? If she follows her progress, she should be making the second dish now, right? Moreover, each of these dishes is so exquisite. Chu Shaobing looked directly at a plate of cicadas carved out of ice and asked in confusion, What kind of dish is this? Chu Ling looked at Chu Shaobing and smiled. You are so lucky. This dish is so fresh. Try it first. It won't taste good if the ice melts. Chu Shaing blinked and poked the ice cicada gently with chopsticks. Eat ice cubes? Can you eat this thing? Silly girl. Chu Ling burst out laughing and picked up the cicada wings with chopsticks. It was only at this time that Chu Shaobing realized that cicada wings were actually made of fish fillets. Can sashimi be made like this? Chapter 27, The Best Taste in the World. Chu Ling cut the snow-white fish meat into extremely thin slices, which were almost translucent. Put it in ice, and it's almost indistinguishable from the real thing. What does as thin as a cicada's wing mean? This is as thin as a cicada's wing. Chu Ling looked at the dumbfounded Chu Shaobing and handed over a dipping sauce. Chu Shaobing dipped a little bit of the sauce into his mouth and felt the fish melt the moment it touched his tongue, leaving only the fresh fragrance in his mouth. The fish meat is so tender, and there's no fishy smell at all. Chu Shaobing honestly expressed his feelings, looking at Chu Ling eagerly. Chu Ling smiled and put another piece into Chu Xiaobing's bowl. If you like it, have another piece. But it's sashimi after all. You can't eat too much at once, understand? Most Chinese girls have a cold constitution, so it is better for them to eat less raw and cold food. Chu Xiaobing nodded obediently, feeling the touch of the fish meat melting instantly on the tip of her tongue, and squinted her eyes in enjoyment. Chu Ling cooked a lot of dishes, including vegetables, meat, and shrimp, which was very rich. Chu Shaobing originally planned to try it, but once he started, he couldn't stop. This vegetable can actually be fried so deliciously. The green cabbage is very crispy when you bite it, and even after cooking, it does not lose any moisture. Chu Ling seemed to have cast a spell and locked the moisture of the vegetable heart into the green vegetables. The taste is not too salty, just enough sweetness from the vegetables. Chu Shaobing couldn't stop eating. It was the first time she had eaten such delicious food. Chu Ling put down his bowl and chopsticks early. The next moment, a light curtain popped up. Host, please complete the sign-in. Sign-in? Congratulations to the host for completing the sign-in and obtaining the God-level acupuncture. God-level acupuncture? Chu Ling thought about it. He had signed up for God-level pharmacology and God-level medical skills before. Now he has gathered all the knowledge in the field of medicine. Not bad, not bad. Chu Ling, who was in a good mood, said to Chu Shaobing. After dinner, let's go out and play? Okay, just wait for me to clean up. Chu Shaobing readily agreed. Chu Shaobing simply tidied herself up and put on some makeup, and the two of them walked downstairs. Where are we going to play? Chu Shaobing fastened his seatbelt after getting in the car, looked at Chu Ling, and asked. Chu Ling thought for a moment and said, How about I take you to see the Yangtze River? Okay, I just came back from Shanghai, and I haven't seen the Yangtze River in my hometown for a long time. Chu Shaobing agreed, and the two of them set off, talking and laughing. The road is very smooth today, and the Bugatti Veyron is very eye-catching on the road. However, most car owners' first reaction after seeing a luxury car is to evacuate quickly. Otherwise, it would be very dangerous. You can go bankrupt at any time. Why is there a traffic jam ahead? It shouldn't be this time. Just as they were about to reach the Yangtze River Bridge, traffic began to slow down. Chu Shaobing looked in the direction of the Yangtze River Bridge and felt confused. This is a freeway, so there is rarely any traffic jam. Chu Ling lowered the car window and heard someone hurrying past, mumbling something about a car accident. His face was pale, as if he had been frightened and was barely recovering from the shock. Chu Ling frowned, glanced at Chu Shaobing beside him, turned around, and parked the car on the side of the road not far away. The two people got out of the car one after another and saw a dump truck overturned on the spot not far away. The huge wheels were still turning, which was frightening. The ground was covered with yellow soil, emitting a unique muddy smell. The good road was mostly covered with dirt, blocking the passage of other vehicles. Chu Ling pulled Chu Shaobing forward and saw a very tragic scene. It turned out that a dump truck and a bus collided with each other. Looking from their direction, they could see that the front of the bus was dented and the glass on the bus was shattered. The car body was deformed by the violent impact. The luggage compartment had exploded, and the suitcases were scattered all over the ground, making the scene a mess. The situation near the car body was even more tragic. Large patches of blood were very obvious, and although they were some distance away from the scene, they could still clearly hear the groans and wails. How so? The scene was so tragic, and there must be quite a few injured. Chu Ling frowned and quickly walked towards the car. The bus also overturned, and some injured people were stuck in their seats, unable to move. Some people have been rescued, and they all suffered serious injuries. Chu Ling saw that many people had big red flowers on their chests, and they were obviously retired from the military. Those in plain clothes were all middle-aged or elderly people, and they should be the families of these retired young people. This should be a bus carrying retired young people and their families. But unexpectedly, it encountered a traffic accident here. The closer we got to the bus, the stronger the smell of blood became. Chu Ling even saw some broken limbs and arms, which must have been cut off instantly when the car overturned. The cross-sections of those limbs had turned black. When Chu Ling saw them, he instantly felt heavy-hearted. I'm afraid the owners of these limbs have met with misfortune. Even if he is lucky enough to survive, he will probably become a disabled person in the future. Son, don't waste your energy. Quickly bandage you, Mom. Mom doesn't feel any pain, really. Chu Ling was checking the situation when he found a middle-aged woman trapped under the car. Her legs were pinned down by the car, and she couldn't move at all. Two lightly injured veterans tried to pull the middle-aged woman out together, but as soon as they exerted force, the middle-aged woman's brows furrowed and her face turned even paler. Even the face that was forcing a slight smile began to twist, and there was no way to rescue her. Chu Ling walked around the bus and found a stone pillar on the street that he placed under the overturned bus to prevent the middle-aged woman's legs from being broken directly. But now it is stuck and cannot be removed. If the delay is too long, the middle-aged woman's legs will become necrotic due to prolonged ischemia. It was precisely because of this stuck middle-aged woman that the injured person stuck in the car above could not be rescued. As long as someone gets on the car, the increased weight will inevitably make the middle-aged woman more painful. Everyone was a little at a loss. If this continued, wouldn't we all die here? After those young men with red flowers on their bodies regained consciousness, they dragged their injured bodies and took care of their injured family members. There were many onlookers at the scene. All of them were shocked by how tragic the scene was, and some even wiped away tears. Oh, you said it was such a good thing. My child was discharged from the army. That's a big deal, right? I didn't expect to encounter something like this. It's really terrible. What a shame. It had to collide with a large vehicle like this. Otherwise, the passengers on the bus wouldn't have suffered such a tragic fate. This type of dump truck is already large, and with the added weight, it can't be driven fast at all. Now it's in such a mess, most people left after seeing the tragedy. They were all ordinary people and could not bear such a bloody scene. At this time, on another lane, a Maybach slowly stopped. Huh? Why did you stop the car? A female voice came from the back seat, and the voice sounded like an oriole chirping in a valley. Very pleasant to hear. The girl was originally reading a book, but when asked the question, she put down the book in her hand and tilted her head to look outside the car. She has a very fair complexion, and the white suit makes her look even more ethereal, like a fairy who is not of this world, with a quiet and elegant temperament. There is also a light herbal fragrance on her body, which makes people feel refreshed and can't help but take a few more sniffs. The driver looked outside and then stuttered. Miss, no. Something bad has happened. There seems to be a major car accident ahead. Upon hearing this, Sunning Shue immediately opened the car door and walked out. She frowned as she glanced forward and quickly said to the driver, help me get the medicine box from the trunk. We'll go save people. When it comes to rescuing victims of a car accident, speed is key. This is a race against time with the god of death. Thinking of this, Sun Ingshua walked towards the bus without hesitation. She first had to understand the casualties, treat the most seriously ill patients first, and try to delay time for them to gain time for rescue. When Sun Ingshua walked to the front of the bus, she realized how tragic the scene was. Looking at the situation in front of her, even Sun Ingshua, a doctor, couldn't help but turn pale. The casualties from the car accident were so severe that even the strong and healthy veterans looked shaky. They were also seriously injured, and the reason they managed to stay up was to take care of their family's safety. This way, Chu Shaing had also been following behind Chu Ling. She was not a medical student and had never experienced a similar scene. She could not stand such a strong stimulation and was so scared that her legs began to go weak. The road is almost impossible to travel. Seeing her distressed look, Chu Ling took out the car keys from his pocket and stuffed them in her hands, saying, Xiao Bing, go back to the car and wait for me. What about you? What are you going to do? Chu Shaobing looked at Chu Ling and asked with concern. Chu Ling gave her a reassuring smile. I'll go help save people. You don't have to worry about me. Take care of yourself. After saying that, Chu Ling walked towards the bus. Chu Shaobing looked at Chu Ling's back, gritted her teeth, and followed him. With such a big accident happening, what's the point of hiding in the car? She doesn't have the ability to do any big things, but she can do some simple bandaging. Chapter 28. The Strength of Physical Points. Chu Ling felt uncomfortable looking at the wounded people all over the ground. He first came to the middle-aged woman whose legs were crushed by the bus to check the situation. A dark-faced man was looking for a possible fulcrum beside the car, while not forgetting to say a few words to the middle-aged woman. Most of what he said were just casual conversations. After listening to a few words, Chu Ling realized that this middle-aged woman was the mother of the black-faced man. "Yuhan, if you can't do it, don't waste your energy. Come here. Mom has something to tell you." The middle-aged woman's face looked very ugly because of the pain. She has gone from being panic-stricken at the beginning to having to accept it now, and seems to have resigned herself to her fate. How heavy must such a big bus be? Although his son is strong, even with the help of several comrades, he is afraid that they will not be able to save him. Instead of this, it is better to explain some things early so that you don't lose the opportunity. Lin Yuhan didn't dare to look at his mother. He secretly wiped away his tears and shouted in a hoarse voice, "Mom, don't talk nonsense. I'll go find someone to help me now." Several of Lin Yuhan's comrades tried hard to hold on to the bus, but it was like an ant trying to shake an elephant. The bus didn't move at all. Even though Lin Yuhan joined in, the veins on their shoulders and arms were exposed from the exertion, but there was still no effect. "Brother, can you come down and help? This is a matter of life and death." One of Lin Yuhan's comrades stopped the car on the side of the road, hoping to find more people to help. "If we all work together, there is strength in numbers." Passing drivers were afraid of taking responsibility and did not dare to step forward. They basically just took a look at the situation and drove away. No matter how many times they shouted from behind, it was of no use. The feeling of being isolated and helpless made the eyes of the strong men redden. This really involves human life. Even if it is not the mother of a comrade in arms, it is still an innocent life. Just when everyone felt powerless, a voice came. "Let me help." Chu Ling walked over, followed by Chu Shaing. Sunning Xue on the opposite side also trotted over. The two girls also expressed their determination to help lift the car. Lin Yuhan and several of his comrades also expressed their gratitude repeatedly. Now, as long as someone could help, it would be enough. One more person means one more hope. At this time, several drivers got out of the car parked nearby, pointed at Chu Ling and his companions, and said to the other drivers, "With their small bodies, it's definitely not possible. That's a bus. It's too heavy, and adding a young man and two girls won't work. Let's get over it quickly. There is strength in numbers. Let's go." The driver next to him sighed and said, "We are only a little bit stronger than them, and our strength is limited. Besides, we can't do it." "I'm not kidding. This is a bus. It's extremely heavy, let alone us. Even if there are 10 more people, I'm afraid the bus can barely move." However, even though the driver said this, they had made up their minds to go and help. They went back to the car first and explained to the family members in the car. On the other side, Chu Ling and his companions had already walked to the side of the bus. Lin Yuhan's comrades were obviously exhausted, but no one was willing to give up. They gritted their teeth and held back the trembling of their arms, wanting to try a few more times. Chu Ling simply found an empty seat and stood there, stretched out his hands to grab the body of the bus, and tried to exert force. The bus was very slippery, and it was difficult to find a good position. Lin Yuhan and his team tried several times, but the bus didn't move at all. Seeing his mother's face becoming increasingly ugly, Lin Yuhan's heart was broken. He really tried his best, but there was nothing he could do. This feeling of helplessness made this Iron Man shed tears silently. He really had no other choice. Even if there was a glimmer of hope, he had to persevere. Tears were streaming down Lin Yuhan's face, and his heart was roaring madly. "Why is this happening? Everyone, hold on a little longer and don't give up," Chu Ling said in a deep voice as he watched the expressions on their faces slowly turn into despair. He took off his luxurious suit jacket, used it as a cushion on his hand, smashed the sharp glass shards in the gap of the car window, and placed his hand against the window using the clothes as a cushion. Chu Ling tried it, and this time he was able to use more force. His movements were clearly seen by Sunning Xue, who was standing next to him. She could see that although the clothes Chu Ling was wearing did not have an obvious logo on them, the material looked very expensive. Using it as a hand pad made Sunning Xue feel a little sorry for the clothes. Seeing Chu Ling like this, everyone tried hard again. Although Lin Yuhan and others had extremely sore arms, they still held their breath and tried hard again, risking tearing their muscles. "Ah!" Several young men roared at the same time, and the sound was like a group of lion kings who were suppressed to the extreme. However, even though they did this, even though they endured the pain and weakness, even though they used all their strength, the bus remained motionless. At this moment, Lin Yuhan's heart was almost broken when he looked at his mother under the car. There is no way. There is really no way. My mother is only 50 years old. She just wanted to come and take me home. What crime has she committed? Oh my God. Why did she have to suffer like this? If you have the guts, come towards me. Lin Yuhan had been a soldier for many years and had long forgotten what tears felt like. But this feeling of wanting to cry, but not being able to did was more torturous than crying bitterly. Not only them, but Sun Yingxue also had a look of despair on her face. Just when they all felt that it was impossible to lift it with just a few of them. Next moment, drink, Chu Ling shouted in a low voice, and in an instant, everyone felt their hands lighten and subconsciously looked at Chu Ling with strange eyes. Is this young man so strong? They could clearly feel that it was only after Chu Ling exerted force that their hands felt lighter. Even if Chu Ling put clothes on his hands to give him a good point of fulcrum, the gap couldn't become so big. However, they knew that now was not the time to dig deeper, so they hurriedly followed suit and tried to rescue the people trapped below as soon as possible. Sun Yingxue looked at their expressions and felt her hands suddenly lighten. She widened her beautiful eyes and looked at Chu Ling in disbelief. Almost everyone felt that Chu Ling was unusual, except Chu Shaing. Chu Shaing had her back to the crowd. After her hands felt lighter, she continued to lift them up with all her might, using all her strength and not noticing the changes around her at all. Although she had very little strength, it basically did not have any effect. Chu Ling felt that the bus had been partially lifted, so he turned around and looked at Sun Yingxue, Lin Yuhan, and the others. What are you standing there for? Hurry up and rescue the people, Chu Ling said while exerting force. Chapter 29, Divine Doctor. Sun Yingxue and Lin Yuhan finally reacted. Lin Yuhan's eyes turned red with excitement. He quickly helped Sun Yingxue to rescue his mother. The people around were also attracted by their actions, and all of them looked incredulous. The drivers who had just gotten off the car and thought that they would not be able to lift it and were about to rush over, looked at the scene in front of them with wide eyes and could not believe what they saw. With such a small number of people, can they really move such a large bus? But now the reality is before them. Mom, are you okay? Lin Yuhan gently placed his mother on the ground. The excitement of regaining what he had lost made him want to give his mother a hug. But seeing his mother's weak appearance, he raised his hands helplessly, feeling a little overwhelmed. He didn't know where exactly his mother was injured, but when he saw blood oozing from her trouser legs, a feeling of uneasiness came over him. No, it won't. My mother is still so young. She still has to take care of me working, getting married, and helping me take care of my children. Lin Yuhan took out his cell phone with trembling hands and dialed the emergency center. Chu Ling and Sun Yingxue also looked at Lin Yuhan's mother at this time. When they saw such a large amount of bleeding, their eyes froze. This situation is very dangerous. If the bleeding cannot be stopped in time, you may not even be able to wait for the ambulance to arrive. At this moment, Sun Yingxue's driver happened to run over with a medical kit. When Chu Ling saw the medicine box in the driver's hand, his eyes suddenly lit up. He walked over, grabbed the first aid kit, and opened it in front of several people. The first aid kit contained alcohol bandages and a simple scalpel, and a set of acupuncture needles was placed in a transparent grid next to it. After seeing Chu Ling's actions, Sun Yingxue became furious and shouted, "Give me the medical kit. I'm a professional. Don't delay my rescue." The driver was also very angry when he saw Chu Lingxing's snatching action. He wondered if this young man knew what he was doing. Even if you are a medical student, you cannot operate blindly before obtaining a medical license. Besides, does this young man know whose medicine box he is robbing? But the driver knew that the young lady was born into a medical family and was a descendant of the medicine king Sun Simiao. Sun Yingxue has been immersed in medicine since childhood. She knew medicines at the age of 5, memorized medical prescriptions at the age of 6, and taught medicine at the age of 9. Now she has even finished the 8-year-old Jinling University School of Medicine curriculum in just 1 year. This year she was directly admitted to Jinling Hospital. She is an extremely talented person among the younger generation of the Sun family. As long as she is properly trained, her future achievements will definitely surpass those of the old man of the Sun family. And now the young lady is the apple of the eye of the entire Sun family. Only the young lady from his own family is the most likely person to save this middle-aged woman here. Chu Ling's behavior, to put it mildly, is an act of vanity. To put it more seriously, he is a murderer who takes human life lightly and causes harm. It is precisely because of this that they are angry with Chu Ling. Sun Yingshue's shock and good impression of Chu Ling for lifting the car to save people just now were all washed away. She looked at the driver and planned to grab the medicine box back. Now, we cannot waste even a single moment of time. After all, we are fighting for our lives with the king of hell. Chu Ling didn't have time to explain any further. He picked up the acupuncture needle box and ran towards Lin Yuhan's mother. The situation is extremely urgent now, and acupuncture treatment must be given immediately. Chu Ling was very fast. He swept his hand across the needle box and picked up more than a dozen silver needles between his fingers. The silver needles are of different lengths and sizes, and each one is shining silver. Chu Ling took out alcohol and quickly disinfected it. Everyone only saw a flash of silver light before their eyes, and a short silver needle had pierced into the philtrum of the middle-aged woman. When the driver saw Chu Ling take action, he subconsciously closed his eyes. Although he didn't know anything about medicine, he had been in the Sun family for so many years. This was the first time he heard of someone directly piercing the Ren-zhong acupoint with acupuncture. Isn't this just nonsense? Someone is really going to die. Just when the driver was anxious about losing someone, only Sun Yingshue's beautiful eyes widened slightly, with a hint of surprise in her eyes. As the saying goes, the layman watches the excitement, while the expert watches the details. Chu Ling's first needle was inserted vertically, steadily, and quickly. This was definitely not the technique of a novice. Even Sun Yingxue herself probably doesn't have this ability. Only his grandfather could have such a steady technique. But how many years has Grandpa been immersed in traditional Chinese medicine, and how many acupuncture treatments has he received? It is really hard to imagine that Chu Ling looked so young, but everything was happening right before her eyes, and she couldn't help but believe it. In the moment when Sun Yingxue was stunned, Chu Ling had already inserted 7 or 8 needles. The order in which he pierced the acupoints was a little strange, and seemed different from the methods Sun Yingxue already knew. Rinzhong point, Shaoshang point, Yinbai point, Daling point, point pricking, straight pricking, and even acupuncture. Chu Ling's movements were very fast. He inserted 13 needles smoothly and effortlessly. He didn't need to find the acupuncture points at all, as the needles were already inserted in his site. From a traditional Chinese medicine perspective, Sun Yingxue can say with certainty that she can identify this acupuncture point very accurately. It's incredible. You should know that everyone's acupoints are slightly different, and sometimes doctors need to rely on their own experience to find the correct location of the acupoints. But Chu Ling's precision is really not a skill that someone of his age can possess. Chu Shaing also looked at Chu Ling's actions with horror. If the two of them hadn't come out together, she really wouldn't have believed it. Is this still the Chu Ling she knew? The calmness and concentration, as well as the confidence when giving acupuncture, radiate from the deepest desire in the bones, making it hard to resist, and one can't help but believe him. He is so amazing, he can save people with acupuncture effortlessly. Chu Ling did not stand up. He was still observing the middle-aged woman's reaction and adjusting the depth and strength of the silver needle at any time. From time to time, I would gently flick the silver needle with my fingers to make the needle body shake gently. This is called awakening the needle in acupuncture, and it can accelerate the efficacy and results of acupuncture. Everyone watching nearby saw it clearly, and the painful expression on the middle-aged woman's face gradually relaxed. Also, the bleeding tends to stop. This made everyone's eyes widen, and they couldn't believe what they saw. Isn't it amazing? Everyone exclaimed in amazement and praised Chu Ling's acupuncture skills. This young man is so amazing. The effect is really immediate and good. It is worthy of being the essence of my Chinese heritage for many years. It is simply incomparable to those Western medicines. Here, Chu Ling waved at Lin Yuhan, called him to his side, and said patiently, I will tell you a few acupuncture points. When your mother wakes up, massage her a few times a day to help her legs recover. The middle-aged woman's legs were pressed under the bus for a long time, so there would be some impact. But the middle-aged woman is still in a coma. Her lower limbs have been deformed by the pressure, and many parts of her body cannot be touched. So Chu Ling could only tell Lin Yuhan the position and let him learn to massage his mother. Are there any other requirements? Strength or something? Lin Yuhan looked at Chu Ling gratefully. and asked while writing down the acupoints. Chu Ling thought for a moment and said, "The strength of the massage depends on your mother's tolerance. If she is in a lot of pain, you can use a lighter massage and massage her more often every day. This will have a better effect. Everything has a limit. Too much is as bad as too little. As long as it is within the range that a middle-aged woman can bear, it is a good force." Lin Yuhan hesitated for a moment, then asked Chu Ling, "Sir, can I ask you why you didn't continue to give my mother acupuncture?" He had just witnessed Chu Ling's acupuncture techniques. Wouldn't it be more effective if acupuncture was combined with massage? Chu Ling knew that Lin Yuhan was also concerned about his mother's condition, so he patiently explained, "Acupuncture can circulate qi and blood. Your mother's internal bleeding has just stopped, so it is not appropriate to give her acupuncture. He is also activating her blood circulation now, so there won't be any major sequelae. But after all, he is not young anymore and still needs some time to recuperate." While Chu Ling was teaching Lin Yuhan, Sun Xue on the side was silently recalling the sequence and strength of acupuncture that Chu Ling had just used, and kept them firmly in mind. The more Sun Xue recalled, the more shocked she was at Chu Ling's acupuncture techniques. Sun Xue looked at Chu Ling's back. First, she had seen Chu Ling's great strength before, and now he had superb medical skills. She felt even more confused. Sun Xue and the driver, who had just tried to snatch the medicine box from Chu Ling, were both stunned where they were, as if they had been baptized. Chu Ling then looked at the injured in the bus and the injured who were thrown out of the bus due to the collision. His heart became heavier. Fortunately, the person who was trapped under the bus had been rescued, so he had no worries about getting on the bus. Then, Chu Ling started to go to the overturned car with bandages and acupuncture needles, and began to treat everyone one by one. If the bleeding was small, he would bandage it first. If the bleeding was heavy, he would use a needle to stop the bleeding first, and then bandage it. Chu Ling looked at the current situation. After all, these were the only tools he had, and he could only do so much. Sun Xue also wanted to go over to help, but when she was stunned and ready to go forward, Chu Ling had almost finished handling the scene. This speed is unprecedented. It was as if they had rehearsed it countless times in advance. Chapter 30 Freak. Here, Chu Ling was just about to breathe a sigh of relief. Mom, what's wrong with you?" Everyone looked in the direction of the voice and saw a young retired soldier hugging a woman and shouting. When everyone heard the veteran shout, they subconsciously surrounded him. The veteran held his mother tightly in his arms, rocking her back and forth, and his voice was already filled with tears. "Mom, wake up! What's wrong with you?" Chu Ling walked over immediately after hearing the shout. When he saw the retired soldier's actions, he immediately stopped him and said, "Lay your mother down immediately. Stop shaking her." Many patients must remain lying flat when they are ill, and their family members cannot be allowed to do whatever they want. The retired soldier was startled. He carefully put his mother on the ground and said with a choked voice, "I didn't mean to do that. I was just worried that the ground was cold and my mother's injury would become more serious." He was also full of filial piety, so he quickly moved slightly and gave the best seat to Chu Ling. "I was holding the coat I had just taken off in my hand, and I didn't know whether to spread it over." Chu Ling walked forward and put his hand directly on the old lady's neck. There is a large artery in the human body there, which can be used to detect whether the patient is suffering from pseudo-death. But after Chu Lingjing waited for a few seconds, there was no feedback from his fingertips. His eyes fixed, and the pulsation of the aorta stopped. While Chu Ling was checking, he asked the retired soldier, "When did your mother fall into a coma?" The retired soldier was stunned. "In coma? My mother wasn't unconscious. She just said she was a little tired. Then I noticed that she gradually just..." The retired soldier couldn't help but tear up when he recalled the scene just now. "Oh, by the way, she said before that she felt dizzy and her heart was beating fast." Chu Ling didn't say anything, but he had already made some preliminary judgments in his mind. He leaned over and put his head on the old lady's chest and listened carefully. There was no movement, and the heart sounds disappeared. Chu Ling took out a flashlight from the medicine box and shone it into the old lady's eyes. Her pupils were slightly dilated, and there was no reaction. Loss of consciousness. Blood pressure cannot be measured. Chu Ling raised his head and observed the old lady's face, and found that she was very pale and had slight body twitching. Based on the current situation, it can be basically confirmed that it was sudden cardiac death. And, judging from the course of the disease, the illness should have occurred for some time. Chu Ling's movements when examining the old lady were so professional. His movements were quick and standard. Coupled with the smooth acupuncture and various movements Chu Ling had just made, everyone was stunned. Sun Xue and Chu Shaing were also stunned by Chu Ling's professional examination movements. However, compared to Chu Shaing, Sun Xue understood the current situation better. The condition of the patient in front of her was more serious. Judging from Chu Ling's previous operation and his expression, this patient should have suffered sudden cardiac death. This disease has a high mortality rate and requires immediate emergency treatment. However, given the current conditions coupled with the traffic jams on both sides, even if an ambulance arrived here, it would not be able to reach the patient for a while. It really is. Sun Xue gets most frustrated at times like this. There are treatment methods, but no equipment. At this moment, she suddenly heard a muffled bang coming from not far away. Everyone quickly looked over in the direction of the sound and saw Chu Ling punching the old lady in the chest. The dull bang just now was the sound made by Chu Ling's hammer. When this punch came down, everyone's face changed, including Chu Shaing and Sun Xue. They all looked at Chu Ling with surprise, hardly able to believe what they saw. Those who don't know medicine are fine. Even Sun Xue, who comes from a medical family, is confused and has no idea what Chu Ling is doing. You were clearly rescuing people. Why did you start beating them? Everyone couldn't bear it any longer and quickly spoke up to stop Chu Ling's ridiculous behavior. Stop it now. The old lady is already unconscious. How can she withstand such a beating from you? Stop it now. You are committing murder. Why hasn't the ambulance arrived yet? Brother, we know you have medical skills, but you can't be so reckless, right? Stop it. Oh my God, if the fighting continues like this, won't someone die? Who said it wasn't? Call the emergency number again. This isn't a solution. He's crazy, really crazy. Look, he's still fighting. Chu Ling seemed not to hear those people's suggestions and doubts. Every punch he threw seemed to be thrown with all his strength and full concentration. He could feel the wind from his fist, and he hit the old lady's chest without hesitation. The second hammer. The third hammer. Only Chu Ling knew that every hammer he struck out played a pacing role. The only medical equipment available here now is a simplest first aid kit. There is no such thing as advanced equipment as a defibrillator. So Chu Ling had to find another way and use his fist to hit instead of the defibrillator. Although doing this can be an emergency solution, Chu Ling is actually taking a huge risk. Chu Ling had to accurately control the strength of every strike. If too much force was used, the old lady's ribs would have been broken, which might have caused more serious injuries or even death on the spot. If the force is not strong enough, it will not have the pacing effect. We could only watch the old lady miss the best time for treatment and pass away with regret. These were not what Chu Ling wanted to see, so he made a prompt decision and immediately started the rescue operation. Several retired young men nearby looked at Chu Ling's actions. They also knew that there must be a reason for Chu Ling to do this. After all, they saw everything he did just now. Even the old lady's son turned his head away, trying hard to suppress the grief in his heart. While Chu Ling was hitting the old lady regularly, he said to her son, "Why are you still standing there? Do you know how to give artificial respiration? Do it now." The retired soldier nodded vigorously. His movements were a bit violent, and he fell to his knees with a thud. The sound of his knees hitting the ground was muffled. Just hearing the sound, he could feel a dull pain in his knees. The retired soldier seemed to be unconscious. He lay there, covered his mother's nose with his hands, and began to breathe regularly into her mouth. After saying that, Chu Ling looked at Chu Shaing and ordered, "Shaobing, call 120. I have something important to tell the emergency center." The people around listened to Chu Ling's orderly commands and felt a sense of security from the bottom of their hearts. Although they didn't understand the medical terms, Chu Ling's tone of voice had a soothing magic. Just do what he says and leave the rest to him. That sense of security is simply overwhelming, okay? At this moment, everyone present looked at Chu Ling with respect. Such a young man, with such medical ethics and skills, deserves everyone's admiration. After hearing Chu Ling's words, Chu Shaobing immediately took out his cell phone and dialed 120 emergency number. While waiting for the call to be connected, she walked up to Chu Ling, rolled up her skirt, squatted beside him, pressed the speakerphone button on her phone, and put it close to Chu Ling's face. "Hello, this is the 120 Emergency Center. How can I help you?" The call to the emergency center was finally connected. Chu Ling took the phone and said in a very serious tone, "You must listen carefully to every word I say and write it down accurately." The patient was a female who had just been in a car accident before the onset of the disease. She had some bruises on her body and was also a little frightened. The patient is currently unconscious. His blood pressure, pulse, and heart sounds have all disappeared, and his body is experiencing slight convulsions. I diagnosed this patient with sudden cardiac death, and the illness has been going on for some time. I am now performing preoperative first aid. I performed simple cardiac pacing and cardiopulmonary resuscitation on her, which relieved her condition. Considering that a long time has passed since the onset of the disease, you must be fully prepared before the ambulance arrives, and you must record this clearly. Prepare a defibrillator in advance and bring epinephrine, nitroglycerin, lidocaine, atropine, choramine, and lobeline. Also, remember to remind the emergency personnel that because of a brief cardiac arrest, the patient is now suffering from brain hypoxia and needs to use an ice cap to help lower the head temperature to 32 degrees Celsius and reduce oxygen consumption. At the same time, notify the emergency room and related staff that the patient is a cardiopulmonary resuscitation patient and needs to establish 2 superior vena cava system large blood vessel channels. According to the current situation, the patient's peripheral veins are collapsed and the success rate of puncture is extremely low. Bone marrow puncture, external jugular vein, or femoral vein cannulation are required. Let them prepare as soon as possible. This speech stunned everyone. Passers-by were also stunned with a bewildered look on their faces. Chu Shaing, who was squatting next to Chu Ling with her skirt lifted up, was also stunned, with a strong flash of doubt in her beautiful eyes. These words are too professional, and ordinary people can't understand them at all. But even so, everyone still felt that Chu Ling's image had become even more majestic. He is so professional at such a young age. His future achievements will definitely be extraordinary. Sa Ningxue stood in the crowd, the corners of her mouth twitching. Coming from a medical family, she could understand what Chu Ling had just said. I can only say 2 words: professional, impeccable, equipment medicines. Even the ice cap was thought of. Without the ice cap, even if the patient was saved, he would probably be brain dead or what people often call a vegetative state. Sa Ningxue didn't even understand why Chu Ling gave the answer so confidently without any instruments or test results. She didn't believe that Chu Ling guessed the answer. After interacting with these 2 patients, Sa Ningxue had a basic understanding of Chu Ling, but subconsciously, she already had great trust in him. Even if you have only met some people once, you know that they are very reliable. Chu Ling's various behaviors all hinted that he was this kind of person. Sa Ningxue sighed silently. She had been practicing Chinese medicine since she was a child and majored in Western medicine when she entered university. This was actually the advice her grandfather gave her. Whether studying medicine or learning any technology, one must learn from others in order to fundamentally improve one's own abilities. Over the years, Sa Ningxue's grades have always been among the best, leaving the students behind her far behind. She felt that she was already very capable and had not disgraced the Sun family's reputation and had inherited the will of her ancestors. But now it seems that I am still far away. Take Chu Ling, whom I met today, for example. Whether it is Chinese medicine or Western medicine, I am far inferior to Chu Ling in terms of treatment. Thinking of this, Sa Ningxue felt crazy. She had obviously worked so hard. From childhood to adulthood, she had never slacked off for a single day, just in the hope of supporting the Sun family's inheritance. I'm so unlucky today that I met such a freak. I really didn't check the almanac before going out. It was such a shock. Chapter 31, Give Money. As for the passengers in other cars who were stuck and had less serious injuries, they were also rescued. Chu Ling went forward to check on them and found that they were not seriously injured. Most of them needed some time to recover because of the violent collision and the fact that they were stuck for a long time, which caused their brains to be deprived of oxygen. But the impact is not big, just rest for a while. After hearing Chu Ling's diagnosis, the families of these people were relieved. It's okay, it's okay. Only at this time can people deeply understand the saying that peace is a blessing. One by one, the retired young men looked at Chu Ling with gratitude on their faces, but they didn't have time to thank Chu Ling as they were all taking care of their families. Not long after, the 120 ambulance finally arrived at the scene. Knowing that a serious car accident had occurred here, the emergency team brought a lot of medical staff. The medical staff were well trained, and they began a quick rescue operation. The injured at the scene all received relevant treatment, including first aid, bandages, and transport. Because of Chu Ling's participation, the rescue work was not chaotic, but surprisingly smooth. Chu Ling and others helped the medical staff carry the seriously ill patient onto the car. After watching the ambulance leave, They finally breathed a sigh of relief. Those seriously ill patients finally managed to save their lives. Now that things here are over, he also plans to take Chu Shaing away. We agreed to bring Chu Shaing out to play today, so we have to keep our word, right? Chu Shaing followed Chu Ling closely, looking at his back. She was really attracted by the way Chu Ling saved people just now. Just now. The way Chu Ling was saving people seriously was really charming. He looked so handsome, even though he remained calm in the face of danger. Such a man is responsible and capable. Chu Shaobing lowered her head slightly, hiding the admiration in her eyes, and asked Chu Ling softly, Chu Ling, is there anything else you don't know? I'm really surprised. I didn't expect you to know medical skills. And not only do I understand very well. Chu Ling just nodded lightly, not wanting to explain too much. I know a little bit. These first aids are just common sense. Sun Yingxue, who was about to come over and ask Chu Ling to go to the hospital together, almost fell over when she heard the two words I roughly understood. Is this level of yours considered a little understanding? And you still say this is common sense? Do you have some knowledge of acupuncture techniques? And those detailed first aid medicines and rescue suggestions, do you say you have some understanding of them? Are you going to let me live? I have worked hard until now, but I only have a basic understanding of it. Moreover, it is not even as good as the level of basic understanding. Is this a hidden criticism of her for her low level? Sun Yingxue swore that she really recited Chu Ling's advantages many times in her mind before she could barely suppress the urge to beat him to death. Isn't this too discouraging? It doesn't give people face at all? However, although Sun Yingxue was angry, she still caught up with Chu Ling and asked, Aren't you going to the hospital to help? Your medical skills are so superb. If the hospital has any difficult operations, you can definitely help, right? After Sun Yingxue finished speaking, she looked at Chu Ling eagerly. She felt that she was doing it entirely for the patient's own good. But Sun Yingxue was completely unaware of her own selfish motives. She just wanted to see how many treasures Chu Ling had waiting to be unearthed. Sun Yingxue had no evidence, but she just felt that Chu Ling would be able to help, even in a large hospital full of experts. It would be even better if Chu Ling could be invited to work in the hospital as a doctor at that time. It would also help my uncle, who is the director of Jinling Hospital, to have a powerful general. Chu Ling ignored Sun Yingxue's invitation, but walked to the side, picked up the medicine box he had snatched before, stuffed it into the other party's hand, and thanked him. Thank you for the medicine box. If it weren't for her medicine box, several seriously ill patients would have been in real danger. After expressing his thanks, Chu Ling turned around and was about to leave. Sun Yingxue saw Chu Ling was about to leave and subconsciously blocked his way. You haven't answered me yet. Come with me to the hospital? Chu Ling's heart twitched when he saw Sun Yingxue blocking his way. This posture looked like a game of eagle catches chicken, no matter how he looked at it. Facing the girl, Chu Ling was also happy. He cleared his throat and said, The question now is not whether I will go or not, but what will I do when I go? The doctors at Jinling Hospital are all experienced and are very good at treating patients. If I go there, I will definitely not be able to cooperate with them so well, and I might even delay the patient's condition, don't you think? Besides, we still have to trust the doctors in such big hospitals. They are professionals. I'm actually just an amateur player. Why are you asking me, an amateur, to join in the fun? I did everything I should have done in this accident. As for the rest, it all depends on the lives of the injured. As the saying goes, life and death are determined by fate, and wealth and honor are determined by God. Finally, there is one more thing. They don't pay me, so what am I going to do? Chu Ling's questions pierced Sun Yingxue's heart. What you said is so logical and well-founded. If I didn't have a brain, I would have been fooled by you. What does amateur mean? You are all amateurs, then what am I? Excessive modesty is pride. Still don't want to pay? How dare you say that? Sun Yingxue had seen clearly before that the clothes Chu Ling used to pad his hands were all luxurious suits worth tens of millions. His expression of no hesitation at that time did not show any care or attention. Tens of millions or even hundreds of millions can be lost at any time. How can a person with such wealth be short of a tiny medical fee? Besides, if you really want money, I will give it to you. Unfortunately, before Sun Yingxue could continue speaking, Chu Ling had already pulled Chu Shaing away. Watching Chu Ling and Chu Shaing leave, Sun Yingxue stomped her feet unwillingly and walked towards the car angrily. The driver, who was not far away, quickly caught up and asked carefully from behind Sun Yingxue, Miss, where are we going now? As the driver spoke, he glanced at Chu Ling's back. This man is quite powerful. Our young lady is famous for her knowledge and good manners. He can make a girl like this angry. His skills are quite impressive. Let's go visit my uncle, Sun Ingxue said as she sat in the back seat of the car. Sun Ingxue's uncle is the director of Jinling Hospital. Although Chu Ling said that just now, Sun Ingxue still wanted to see how the injured person was doing. She is also a doctor at Jinling Hospital. Although she is on leave today, Jinling Hospital may not have enough staff after an accident like today, so it would be helpful for her to go and help. She also wanted to see how the middle-aged woman who had used the silver needle to prolong her life was doing. Thinking of the silver needles, Sun Ingxue opened the medicine box, took out the needle box containing the silver needles, and she also wanted to take the silver needles back. These silver needles were made by my grandfather as a birthday gift for me when I was 18 years old. Looking at the silver needle, Sun Ingxue's thoughts drifted far away. Then, she felt something foreign in her pocket. She reached out to touch it and then took it out. They were two bright red Mao Zedong banknotes. Sun Ingxue. I didn't bring any cash today? How come? Today is so weird. Chu Ling and Chu Shaing just got in the car, and then they were stunned, huh? It seems that the silver needles used by the girl just now are still inserted into those patients, and there are bandages. I should have known to carry some cash with me. Chu Ling muttered to himself. He could also see that the silver needles seemed different from ordinary needles. It should have been carefully crafted, which made him feel a little guilty. What's wrong? Chu Shaing looked at Chu Ling's expression and asked. Chu Ling looked at her and smiled. Nothing, I just used that girl's things and it seems I didn't pay her. I just remembered it after I was done with my work. As he was speaking, Chu Shaing also stretched out his hand. What? Chu Ling was stunned. Give me money. Chu Shaing smiled softly. I just took advantage of the girl's moment of distraction to stuff 200 yuan into her pocket. You are amazing. Come on, take out your phone and I will transfer the money to you. Chu Ling took out his phone and then Chu Shaing stared at him. Okay. Just consider it as the fare for you to take me out to play today. Let's go and go out to play. Chu Ling turned his head and glanced at Chu Shaing. Seeing her still pale face, he suddenly laughed. This girl was so scared, yet she was pretending to be relaxed. Chapter 32. Okay, it wasn't me. At this time in Jinling Hospital, several doctors were looking at a piece of paper and discussing something. The man in the lead was Sun Zi, the director of Jinling Hospital, who was also Sun Ingxue's uncle. The others were the surgeons in charge of the surgery at Jinling Hospital. Sun Zi tapped the paper on the table with his fingers and said, Everyone, take a look. This is the facts that just came from the 120 Emergency Center. It contains some preoperative instructions. Preoperative instructions? The surgeons didn't take it seriously, but the more they looked at it, the more frightened they became. This preoperative instruction is so detailed. The content of each of these articles hits the point completely, especially the final vein puncture. If it is not discovered until during the operation, it will waste too much time. This preoperative preparation can save them a lot of time and also increase the patient's chances of coming back from the brink of death. There was a knock on the door of the conference room at this time, and a young nurse stuck her head in and announced, The patient is here. Sun Zi and the surgeons looked at each other and hurried out. Inside the ambulance, the retired soldiers jumped out first. Regardless of their own injuries, they insisted that the doctor take care of other patients first. Not only that, they also helped the medical staff to transfer the patient's beds, doing it themselves, which was very touching. The old lady who died of sudden cardiac death was gently held by her son's hand. He encouraged her in her ear. Mom, you must hold on. Our future good life is still waiting for your personal guidance. Your son is waiting for you outside the operating room. You must hold on, okay? The nurses knew that time was urgent, so they asked the people next to them to help the retired soldier away, and the others quickly sent the old lady into the operating room. The surgeon in the operating room was ready. After completing all the preparations, he started the operation. The operation went smoothly, and a thin layer of sweat appeared on the surgeon's forehead. While the nurse was wiping his sweat, the surgeon sighed. Fortunately, we had the preoperative preparations. It was just in time. It was just as the note said. Otherwise, it would have been a disaster. The assistant and the nurse next to him looked at each other and said nothing. The surgeon in charge is currently performing surgery and must not be disturbed. But there are some complaints that I just have to make. They just took a look and found that the preoperative preparation was too professional. It was obvious that only an old hand could make such a judgment. Sun Ingxue also arrived at Jinling Hospital shortly afterwards. She was not idle either, and was helping the hospital's medical staff with their treatment work. Only after all the personnel at the accident scene had completed their rescue work did Sun Ingxue stretch. change her clothes, and go home. Everyone is too tired today, and her uncle must be even busier, so she can't disturb him now. She had helped in all the ways she could, and it would not be of much use for her to continue staying here. As for the condition of the injured, she also asked through her connections and learned that the operation was very successful, which means that these people have all come back from the brink of death. However, after she left, the situation here was completely different. All the men were crying, just like the lyrics said, tasting the taste of tears after a long absence. As for Chu Ling, he had already taken Chu Shaing to the Yangtze River. Watching the Yangtze River flowing away, Chu Ling felt a sense of comfort in his heart. Those unpleasant memories seemed to be washed away by the river water and became thinner. Xiaobing, do you feel better? Chu Ling asked softly. But after waiting for a long time, there was no reply. Chu Ling looked in the direction of Chu Shaobing and found that this girl was in a daze. Chu Ling was stunned for a moment, knowing that Chu Shaobing must be very scared. After all, that kind of scene is really not something a little girl like this can accept. Thinking of this, Chu Ling felt a little guilty. I should have left Chu Shaobing in the car. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been scared. Chu Ling thought about it, poked Chu Xiaobing's arm gently, and asked, Xiaobing, do you want to watch a comedy? It is said that heart disease can only be cured by heart medicine. If you are frightened by bloody things, will you feel better if you look at something happy? Chu Xiaobing blinked, forced a smile, and then said, okay. When Chu Ling saw that Chu Xiaobing agreed, he immediately went to get the car and headed towards his destination. Towards evening, Chu's father and mother returned home. Old Chu, what do you think your daughter cooked for Xiao Chu today? Before Chu's mother even entered the door, she had already started to speculate eagerly. As Chu's father was taking out the key to open the door, he ignored his wife's question and heard Chu's mother continue to say, I don't know if the food she cooked is good or not. If such a good son-in-law is lost because of this bad meal, it makes me feel sad just thinking about it. Chu's mother really started to worry, seeing that the daughters of her friends around her were all getting married. It's heartbreaking to think that such an outstanding daughter of mine is left alone. Father Chu opened the door and let his wife in first. Then he followed her in, saying as he walked in, My daughter is like me, and her cooking skills are absolutely first-rate. Mother Chu, are you sure? Why are you pretending when you can't even fry an egg? If Chu's father hadn't said this, Chu's mother wouldn't have been so worried. But after he said this, her heart became even more worried. After changing their shoes, the two walked into the house. As soon as they entered, they saw several plates of food still on the table that had not been put away. Chu's father and mother looked at each other, with inquiry in their eyes. The two walked over and took a look. There were signs of eating on the plate. It seemed to be the leftovers of their daughter and Xiao Chu. Father Chu smiled as he looked at the plate and said proudly, Did you see that? I told you my daughter is like me, right? Look at these side dishes. They are absolutely delicious, so good. To be honest, even if you, as a mother, cook by yourself, you may not be as good as your daughter. Mr. Chu was not bragging and was speaking without any selfishness. The appearance of the dishes on the table was comparable to those prepared by a hotel chef. And it's at least a 5-star hotel. As Dad Chu was talking, he asked Mom Chu to bring him a pair of chopsticks because he wanted to try the food his daughter had cooked. It is only with the help of my future son-in-law that I can taste the food my daughter cooks. My status as a father is not that good either. Chu's mother heard all the sighs and groans from Chu's father, and she laughed so hard that she fell backwards. You sound so sour when you say that. Wait until my daughter comes back and see how I will smear you. As Mrs. Chu was talking, she had already handed the chopsticks to Mr. Chu. Chu's mother was still a little hesitant to try, even though she was her daughter. How good could her cooking skills be in her first time? The taste is absolutely uncomplimentary. Dad Chu didn't think too much about it. He picked up a piece of meat with chopsticks, put it in his mouth, and chewed it gently. The dish was already a little cold, so the original flavor of the meat was not brought out until the meat was heated in the mouth. Dad Chu couldn't help but let out a soft cry. This taste. It was at this moment that a layer of light appeared in Chu's father's originally calm eyes. He seemed to be rejuvenated and almost jumped up from his chair. This taste is so delicious. The diced chicken tastes salty and fresh, with a hint of spicy flavor, and is very delicious. Although it is chicken breast, it does not have the slightest dry texture, but instead is extremely tender and smooth. Mr. Chu was a little bit unbelievable. He quickly picked up the herbal tea on the table and took a sip, then picked up a piece of diced chicken and put it in his mouth. The taste this time seems to be stronger. The herbal tea just now did not completely wash away the taste in my mouth. Perhaps it was because of the layer of taste as a base. The fragrance of this second piece was more rich and mellow. The intense deliciousness stimulated his taste buds. Dad Chu felt his appetite increase, and he was hungry. Don't just focus on eating. Tell me how it tastes. Chu's mother looked at Chu's father, who was silent. She felt like a cat scratching everywhere in her heart, feeling itchy. As a result, Mr. Chu ate without even raising his head, shoveling food into his mouth with chopsticks left and right. Mother Chu was stunned and furious. This dead man, eating such cold leftovers without saying a word, was his tongue frozen? After all, they were an old couple for many years, and Chu's mother still felt sorry for her husband. So she said, I can't stand you looking like a starving ghost. If you are really hungry, I will make you something hot. In the end, Mr. Chu still didn't respond and just kept eating. Chu's mother was really annoyed, so she grabbed the chopsticks and took a bite herself. Mother Chu was stunned for a moment, picked up the 2 plates in front of her, and walked into the inner room. This is not a gentleman's behavior. Wait a minute, let's eat together. Chu's father didn't care about anything else. He went to the kitchen, got a cold steamed bun, and rushed into the house. The couple ate happily and soon finished all the food on the plates. Mother Chu looked at the empty plate with a sense of unfulfilled desire and said angrily, Great, this little girl is amazing. She's such a good cook, but she pretends she can't even make instant noodles. Let her cook for us from now on. She doesn't care about her parents at all. Father Chu's eyes lit up as he listened, and he nodded repeatedly, agreeing. My wife is absolutely right. A child like this should be punished by being made to cook every day. If he had meals like this every day after get off work, he felt that his later years would be a blessing. Chu's father and mother didn't want to watch TV anymore. They sat on the sofa and discussed the taste of the dishes they had just had. The more they thought about it, the more regretful they felt. Such a delicious dish would taste better if it were hot, right? It's all your fault. If you had braked in time, we would have heated up the food. It would have been the most delicious. Que est modeur complénède. Dad que smilé d'embarrasser de lit. He also wanted to eat something hot, but his hands wouldn't allow it. It's okay. When the chef comes back, we can have a hot meal. As the two were talking, there was a noise near the door. It was Chu Shaing coming back. As soon as Chu Shaing entered the room, she saw her parents standing at the door of the room, staring at her expressionlessly like 2 door gods. Chu Shaing was shocked. Mom and Dad, what are you doing? You scared me to death. Chu Shaing stroked her chest and cried out in dissatisfaction. Chu's father and mother looked at each other, and Chu's mother said, Come in for a moment. Chu Shaing didn't think much about it and followed her parents into the room obediently. As soon as she entered the room, she saw several shiny, empty plates. Hey, did you eat the leftovers? But since you have washed the plates clean, why are they still here? It would be better to put them back in the kitchen. Chu Shaing recognized that these were the plates she had used at noon today and asked in confusion. Mother Chu smiled and said, Your father wiped it with a steamed bun. Chu Shaing, are these still my parents? I want to call the police now. I suspect my parents were abducted by aliens. Mother Chu tapped the table with her fingers and asked seriously, Did you make this dish for lunch? When Chu Shaing heard her parents' questions, her expression became obviously abnormal. Thinking of her kidnapper look at noon, she found it hard to face herself. Chu Shaing coughed lightly and said with a guilty conscience, Yes, I made it. How is it? Doesn't it taste good? Did you really cook this? That's great. Chu's father and mother were immediately delighted, and they even high-fived to celebrate. From now on, you will be the one cooking for our family. There are good days to come. Chu Shaing. These are definitely not her biological parents. Chu Shaing realized the seriousness of the matter and quickly told the truth. Okay, I admit it. It really wasn't me who did it. It was Chu Ling who did it. Chapter 33, Marrying a Daughter. If I don't tell the truth, the burden of feeding a family of 3 will fall on my shoulders.